Okay. City of Laredo Special Council Meeting, June the 2nd, 2026, 12:10 p.m., City Hall, 1110 Houston Street, Laredo, Texas. All stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. May be seated. Mr. Secretary, roll call, please.
Yes, Mayor. Honorable Mayor, Dr. Victor D. Trevino,
Present.
Honorable Mayor Pro Tem and Council Member District 1, Gilbert Gonzalez. Honorable Council Member District 2, Ricardo Richie Rangel Jr. Honorable Council Member District 3, Melissa Cigarroa. Honorable Council Member District 4, Ricardo Rick Garza.
Mayor.
Honorable Council Member District 5, Ruben Gutierrez Jr.
Present.
Honorable Council Member District 6, Dr. Tyler King.
Here.
Honorable Council Member District 7, Vanessa Perez. Honorable Council Member District 8, Alisa Cigarroa. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you.
Mayor, motion to excuse the members that are missing from council.
Motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passed. We'll proceed with communications first before we go into citizen comments. Presentation by Mayor, providing general comments on city manners, upcoming initiatives, and other relevant updates for the council and the public. I wanted to add some commentary before we go into citizen comments. As we consider this item, it is important that we view it through a lens of both our current needs and our long-term vision for the future of Laredo. Transportation infrastructure is a backbone of our community. As the nation's largest inland port and one of the most important trade gateways on the global stage, the efficiency of our transportation networks affects not only our local community, but also the movement of commerce to the United States and North America. Today, Laredo is undertaking what is widely recognized as the largest bridge expansion in American history. This investment being made in our international crossings will increase capacity, improve efficiency, reduce congestion, strengthen security, and position our community to accommodate continued growth in trade for decades to come. These transformational projects require careful planning and sustainable funding mechanisms to ensure their long-term success. In my recent conversations with the governors of both Tamaulipas and Nuevo León, along with the mayor of Nuevo Laredo, we have discussed how these decisions we'll make today will set the trajectory for our respective communities for the next 30 to 50 years. We have a responsibility not only to address the needs of the present, but to think about generations that will inherit the infrastructure, economic opportunities, and quality of life that result from the choices we make today. I'm also reminded of my discussions with the president that took place at the White House during the approval process of the World Trade Bridge and the Columbia Bridge. My message was simple. Trade brings opportunity, and opportunity strengthens democracy, and when communities along the border have success to jobs, they're given hope and not vulnerable to criminal organizations that seek to exploit poverty and lack of opportunity. At the same time, we must remain mindful that the impact toll rates have on our residents, commuters, and businesses. Every dollar matters to the families and communities that rely on these facilities. This is why I appreciate that this proposal contemplates a phased implementation schedule, which provides predictability and avoiding the burden of a single significant increase. And as we move forward, transparency remains essential. Our residents deserve to understand the reasons for any proposed increase, the projects that will be supported, and how these investments will strengthen our infrastructure and economic competitiveness. And the reality is that if we expect world-class infrastructure, we must also ensure that we have a responsible plan to maintain and improve it. The challenge before us is finding the appropriate balance between affordability for today's users and the investment necessary for tomorrow's growth. And I look forward for hearing the presentation and the perspectives of my fellow council members as we continue building a stronger future for Port Laredo and their entire border region. With that being said, we'll move on to citizen comments, and I know we have several here. We'll start, we have these on items unless you want to speak on them right now. Okay, we have one more here. We'll start with Fernando Baldaza. Do you want to speak on it right now?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead.
Bueno, okay. Fernando Baldazo for the record. Is there another mic?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Fernando Baldazo for the record, representing myself and the community. Thank you for having this workshop, this meeting, to give everybody a chance to express their opinion and their feelings on the current item. I think we could all use a bit of extra money. Definitely, we must also make sure that we are only paying for things that we need and not the things that we want. I think the bridge expansion is something we need. I'm not against that. But I think, first of all, Laredo, fortunately, does not have a money problem. I think what we have is a bit of a spending problem. Considering raising the bridge tolls today or any time would have a negative impact on trade, on the trade industry that has put Laredo on the world map. There's a bunch of areas where spending could be cut. For example, Canseco House, giving away third-party funding, and a bunch of other projects where we could probably save money and put it back into the trade industry. Having the busiest international bridge in America would make you think that will be the cheapest crossing of any border. I mean, we do 3 or 4 times more than our closest competitor, yet we have the most expensive bridge already on the border. Any increase would just be completely uncalled for, not needed, as we already have the most expensive bridge. We have the biggest budget per capita in the state. I don't know if any of you have done the math, but currently we have, with our budget divided by our citizens, we have about $4,400 per capita, while other cities in Texas, and I use Arlington as a reference because it's the closest in our population, they're only spending $1,875. So we're spending twice as much already. So probably what we need to look at is cutting. Mayor Trevino and City Council, I kindly ask you to look at cutting expenses and other ways to get more money into the general fund to avoid assaulting the community and the trade industry to look for more money. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is Rene Gonzalez.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. For the record, my name is Rene Gonzalez. Bridges in Laredo have a fond place in my heart. One, because when we did the World Trade Bridge, I was part of the team that created the presidential permit for that bridge. And two, I'm probably the only person still alive today that went to the binational crossings and bridges meetings around the country and presented on the fact of the World Trade Bridge, and actually it was Bridge 4, which was the incoming bridge that we were looking at back in the day. A couple of challenges that I see. I'm not for or against a raise. What I'm for is doing the right thing. And the right thing is looking at your numbers. Right now, at the same time, you're looking at a resolution of 1998 that said 50% of all tolls go to the general fund. That number goes either up or down, and it works out. 2021, you had the COVID. You were at 64 million was bridge tolls, 32 million went into the coffers, into the general fund. Laredo survived that. You didn't have any problems with your bridges. Right now, you're at, what, 92 million? You're looking at trying to bring 45. So if you could make things 5 years ago work at 32 million, right, you're increasing. None of us have a clue. I don't know if you council members have been given what the general fund money is used for. That 50%, is it used for this, that, or the other? Is it at the end of the year, like they say, spend your money on your supplies because you're gonna lose it if you don't spend it? We need to ask for an open record request, or ask you as members to say, what is this money used for? It's called responsibility. We have to do it every day in our lives. We're taxpayers, we're bridge crossers. There's companies here that put in more than 100,000 invested into the bridges. $100,000, that's a lot of funds. And they don't even know where it's going because you told us it's gonna be for this, it's gonna be for that. The idea that you're using in your studies and talking about geographic region and how you're saving money because you're closer to Laredo, in Spanish that's called chantaje. You're charging me more money because I'm in an area by myself and I can do we're losing employees every day in these warehouses. Warehouses are not being increased. In 21-20, warehouses were growing. There was everything, and you made it with 32 million. We don't even know how much you spent on the general fund. We need to be more responsible with the money spent for. You need to know what that money is spent for. We are not prepared for this decision at this time. You're not prepared for it in August because you don't have the details. We need a stronger system. Mayor, you have us on advisory committees for that reason, to advise. I'm on the Economic Advisory Committee. We look at numbers every day. We look at Laredo numbers. We talk about bridge, what is the data that exists?
Mayor, 3 minutes.
Yeah,
Thank you very
you
much.
can go ahead and finish up.
Just one last thing before I go. $1 million cash is $10 million to your debt service. So when you look at 225 million debt service, that's not a real number. I just want you to remember that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right. Monica Salinas.
Good afternoon, Monica Salinas. I'm part of the Port of Entry Advisory Committee. I'm an ex-president of the Laredo Licensed U.S. Custom Brokers, and I'm here to say my personal opinion on this matter. First of all, I think we need to consider that it's not the right time. We are facing a lot of challenges as the trade. We have the tariff, we have the demand that is slowing the trade on the transportation side, and the increase that is proposed, it's higher than a regular increase should be. We are not talking about $1. When we said we are going to increase the amount for $1, it's not $1. It's more than 50% of the usual rate that we have right now. So we need to look at this matter by percentage so we can have the big picture on how much the industry is going to be affected. The other thing is we are not against, but I think it's not the right time. And we need to do this in a slow pace to not affect the industry, especially the local industry, which is the drayage transfer in between Nuevo Laredo and Laredo, Texas. If you see our numbers, you will see that, we still have 1%, 2% increase compared to the last year, that it's not real. Because if we go back to the numbers on 2024, before all the tariffs were affected in the industry, we are not having any increase on cargo. Actually, we have a decrease. We used to have a pace of 6% increase every year on international trade. Now we are 1%. So that means we are not having a growth on the industry. So that's the main reason we have to look at the numbers, revise how this increment should be. I don't think a 50% and then in 2 years another 50 and we are having all the weight on this increase. I also encourage all the councilwomen to look at your discretionary funds and also just pitch in. I mean, it's not just this industry that should be affected. We can all pitch in. We know we struggle in certain things, and we can put projects in hold and then move back. And instead of looking to increase the toll rate, we can look in how to improve and automate our bridges to have more income. Let's look this as a business. Just make it work and make it more efficient, and let's move faster with all the improvements that are going to be done in World Trade. We can accelerate this process. Maybe we can have that money that the city needs in that matter, not in the increase in the tolls.
Thank you. Next is Jerry Maldonado.
Mayor, if we can recognize Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Rangel, and Councilmember Cigarroa present.
All right, as noted, recognize the members present. Thank you. Jerry Maldonado?
I would like to wait for the item to be brought up.
Okay, all right. All right. Jose D. Martinez.
Good afternoon. I'm Jose D. Martinez with the Laredo Licensed Customs Broker Association.
Afternoon.
Afternoon. And again, I'm also speaking against the increase. Same reason. We need to look closely at where the money is being spent than raising the funds on one industry. Yes, I understand it also includes a fund for the people crossing, but for the most part, the trucking industry, the brokerage industry, the main industries of Laredo are the ones that are going to get hit the hardest. Okay, we have other cities coming to visit Laredo, touting their bridges. Okay, neighbors from less than 100 miles away are saying, hey, we're a better choice. If we increase the price, people may agree with them. So all I say is, think about what we're doing. And, they say there's been a drop. Raising the rates may give people other choices where Laredo just becomes a warehouse facility instead of a bridge crossing. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jose Gonzalez.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm Jose G. Gonzalez for the record, and also president of the National Broker Association, past president of local, and also on the Port of Entry Committee. So with that being said, we have had experiences 15 years of up to 4 to 7% growth where we feel money should have been set aside for any infrastructure needs. This current administration has created our decrease, which has affected our economic trade deficiency with the tariffs and also with additional economic values that are being done on a national level. So we feel the improvement is needed, but we also need to go ahead and propose a different method as well. Looking at, that was mentioned earlier by some of my colleagues, the cuts. So, and I really feel like we should really look at the cuts. So we should also look at resolving at the 98 resolution, where it's a 50-50 split. I think that we should go ahead and review the study that was proposed by our city management. And when that study was done, I don't think it was kind of biased. We have a lot of people that said that we're not from Laredo. And there are a lot of drayage drivers are from rural Laredo. So, I mean, they're from our sister city. So we got to take that value into consideration as well. So, and they also provide economic value for our need, for our city as well. So, so I really feel that when we do that study, we got to look at that infrastructure needs, and also looking at the concept of Walmarts and Costco. If you look at them, they're looking at the fact that they're the biggest stores for a reason. They're not the most expensive stores, so that's why we should look at the bridge as well. We got to take that into consideration and use our funds in a manner where it's developed properly. And also, if we're going to go ahead and focus on funds that we need for the bridge that we need, we also got to provide savings for any future infrastructure needs, because this is just a current crisis that we're going through. Obviously, that we feel that once there's stability, there's going to be an increase, and especially on the tariffs, they reduce that or they kind of get that stable as well. we can kind of go ahead and focus on that increase that we will be getting back. It's only 1 or 2 years, there's always peaks and valleys, and right now we're just in a valley. So this is not the time for any kind of increase in the bridge tolls. We just feel that, we should kind of stabilize, wait to see the midterms, and after that, we can kind of move forward and sit there and see what direction this administration is going to go and how we can kind of improve the structure that we need for Laredo. So, but we do need this bridge. The only thing is we got to look at the funding methods to make sure that we don't affect the trade right now. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Jose Ceballos?
I'm going to wait for the staff presentation.
All right, thank you. All right, that's the end of the citizens' comments. This is a non-action item. Do we have any further comments from management?
I would ask, because we are waiting on one of our financial advisor is landing at 1:30. Could we take item 3 first, for the health insurance? I know we have a lot of people here for that, but if we can just kind of move that around, because I think he'll be able to answer some of the questions on debt service and such of what we're doing.
All right.
Motion to bring up number 3.
Mayor, just, as we're,
You have a comment?
just before we, if
Yes,
you don't
go
mind, since that's the case, so it's 12:30, you're saying Mr. Hinojosa lands at 1:30, and then we'll be here by 2?
Yes, sir, yeah. We'll send him an escort. No, I hope he'll get here. He'll land at 1:30 if everything works out the right way, and then he'll be coming over, and so, yeah,
And
by
just
2
for-
o'clock.
And just for the audience to be aware, as you mentioned, Mayor, that this is a discussion item. Mr. City Manager, when would you anticipate, we have an action on this, so that
It is,
be aware of the
it is in my
direction we're going.
report because I'll start the presentation off, and we've got about 14 slides to kind of answer some of the questions that we've been hearing as well too. The earliest you can take this up will be the June 15th council meeting, but it'll be after, I guess, for a lack, I'll tell part of my story today, right now, is that we want to lay out and make sure that we've given you all the information and all the data that you need in order to understand the entire situation of what we're walking through thing. It's a challenging item, and for that matter, this was requested to complete this within a workshop setting so that we can have conversation with the public as well as everybody up here. I want to make sure that you have all the information. I want to make sure that there are no remaining questions or pieces of information to lay on the table. And then it becomes about the decision-making process in order to walk through that. And so the idea of the way we've laid that out there was to put the introductory ordinance out there so that it starts the process of exactly what we're walking through. From this point after today, it is about bringing it back to the council and giving you the opportunity to think about this for at least a couple weeks longer, if not a little bit more, depending on how we can get it back to the table. So the item is written on here as just a discussion type item. There will be no decision made on this item today. That's not the way we wrote the item for the agenda. It'll be about making sure that you've heard from the public, making sure that you have heard all the data, and we brought it up today.
Mayor, so since there's no action item today, and since people made time to come, would it be feasible to you to allow city manager to do his presentation that he's going to do anyway later? I know a lot of people probably made time for 12 to 1 lunch.
Were you ready to do it?
I'm ready to go at any point in time, so I'm happy to do my presentation. Hopefully it doesn't take 2 hours, but no,
That's a motion.
Yeah, we don't need a motion to special meeting, so we can just direct the city manager.
Can I just clarify, so after the discussion today, it will be returning to the agenda as an introductory ordinance or as a discussion with possible action for, because I think
No.
that needs to be clarified.
it was presented as an introductory ordinance, and so it will go to the next stage of that. So it'll be a decision-making ordinance, a second reading. Yeah, and so unless there is something substantial that happens with the ordinance, if there's something substantial that changes the ordinance itself, it'll take another additional reading. But right now, introductory has been taken care of. We're having the workshop. It can come back as a decision-making item.
But as an introduct, as an.
Not as an introductory ordinance, because that
Second
has
reading.
been satisfied. It is an actual
So it's
decision-making ordinance.
we have one step for action to be, like, there's, for action to.
From this point, yes, from this point, the next time it comes to the council, you can consider it for action.
For a second reading, but then we
For
have
the
a third to go after that with final reading. Just two?
There's only two readings on this item.
This is ridiculous.
All right,
Yeah,
Okay.
hopefully that clears the process.
all right. Okay, well, go ahead and do your presentation, please.
It's already open? Okay. If I can get the mouse to move, there we go. Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the City Council. Our goal today is to provide clarity regarding the bridge system's financial position, discuss the assumptions incorporated into the proposed rate schedule, and answer any of the questions that the council may have. The detailed analysis supporting this discussion is contained in the bridge rate study. It's in the city's annual budget documents. It's in the city's capital improvement plan documents and the financial materials that have been prepared by our financial advisor. Today's presentation is intended to summarize the most significant findings and highlight the key policy considerations before council. It's not to go over all the data and the information. The information is out there. It is just to try to come back to the broad points of this as to what we're trying to talk about and what we're trying to consider. Before we begin, it's important to recognize that the bridge system remains in a stable financial position today. The system continues to support current operations. It meets its existing obligations and maintains healthy reserves. However, operating costs, infrastructure needs, and the impacts of international trade on the city's services continue to grow. If the city's objective were limited to maintaining current operations and addressing normal cost increases, more modest rate adjustments could be considered. The larger funding needs identified in the rate study are associated with future bridge expansion projects, toll system modernization, and long-term infrastructure investments. As a result, the discussion before us is not being driven by a financial crisis, but rather by how aggressively the city wishes to pursue future bridge investments and how those investments should be funded. As council is aware, bridge revenues support much more than the operation of the bridges itself. They also help support public safety, streets, traffic operations, and other city services that are impacted by international trade and the operation of the bridges. The proposed rate structure is designed to align revenue generation with anticipated financing and project needs rather than accumulating significant fund years in advance. What we've done is that we've tried to spread this out as far as we can that we're comfortable with and tried to only take what was necessary at the time when it was necessary. If in the manufacturing industry, just think of it as just-in-time service. We're trying to produce it at the time we need it. The phased approach was intended to allow both commercial and non-commercial users time to adjust after nearly a decade without a toll rate increase. At the same time, several important project decisions and coordination efforts remain underway. As project details become more defined, staff will be able to further refine construction schedules, financing requirements, and funding strategies. At some point, however, the city will need to determine the pace at which it wishes to move forward and commit to the funding necessary to support these investments. Today's discussion is intended to help council better understand the opportunities, the obligations, and financial considerations associated with that decision. Following today's workshop, staff will continue refining the analysis based upon the council's direction and return at a future meeting with any recommended next steps. With that, I will walk through the opening portions of the presentation and then ask members of staff and our financial advisor to assist in addressing the more detailed operational, financial, and technical questions that may arise. If I can get my slides to change. All right, the adopted CIP identifies approximately 244 million in bridge-related projects over the planning period. The largest projects are the Columbia Bridge expansion at 137 million, the World Trade Bridge expansion at 48 million, and additional CBP improvements, modernization projects, and operational enhancements. These projects are intended to maintain our competitiveness, increase our capacity, and improve operational efficiencies. The project schedules will continue to mature as implementation milestones are completed. One of the questions that I think came from council was, when did we determine that the Columbia Bridge needed to happen in the time frame that it is happening in? Every year when we approve the CIP list, both of those bridges are listed in our CIP project, our capital improvement project document. That implements the triggering session in order to move forward with those actions. And so just want to make sure that's in there. Staff asked our financial advisor to evaluate financing options and debt capacity associated with the Bridge Capital Program. The following slides will illustrate potential financing scenarios and funding assumptions. These materials are intended for discussion purposes and are not final decisions. The Bridge Capital Program is divided into three major categories. There's 180 million for bridge expansions, 35 million for bridge modernization and CIP projects, 25 million for toll system replacement and upgrades. The largest driver of the future funding needs is the bridge expansion program. The toll system replacement is also a significant upcoming investment. This toll rate conversation is based upon capital needs of the bridges. And so I want to make sure that that is said there, because whatever we do with the bridge rates will have an impact to our timing and our process. Hopefully I've said that enough for that. This slide here illustrates the potential financing scenario if the full bridge capital program is funded. It assumes approximately 258 million of debt issuance over multiple years. Even under this scenario, projected debt coverage remains above required bond covenants. This is a modeling exercise intended to demonstrate capacity and affordability. So we have this built out there, and I want to make sure I explain the difference, because I talked earlier about the capital projects being $240 million. This slide here talks about 258 million of debt service. We have to buy the money that we're going to spend on the capital. So there's some millions of dollars in there of going out on the market and borrowing that money. It has to be built into our debt service model. So just so you know, it's not just about the $240 million that we need for the capital itself. It is also the investment of the borrowing within that process. This is our proposed toll rate increases from where we are currently at. You'll see it on the left side, 2025. This is where our current rates are at. 2026 begins if we were to approve the proposal as presented and it was to come into fruition very, very soon. This is the layout of that. If you remember, when we first talked about this all the way back in February, we had a 4-year plan laid out to you. It was a little bit tighter. It increased the amounts a little bit heavier than we would have liked to have seen. And when we had our conversation with Port of Entry after that, the industry expressed the concerns about how do we make this all work. I think it was said at the last council meeting as well too. for the custom brokerages and for some of the other industries that we have. Contracts for these rates and everything are done in September or March, depending on what the industry is. And so we tried to build a model that is standardized. We tried to build a model that is very definitive so that there is no question within what we were trying to accomplish. So we've stretched this out over a 5-year window, and then we've added into, at the end of that 5 years, a cost of living adjustment that will continue on, because over a decade without doing rate increases is not a good way to manage anything. I don't know of any other business out there, we can talk to the industry about that as well too. There is no way, if you don't maintain the revenue coming in to cover the expenses of what you're trying to do, how it would ever work. And so so we've laid this out there and stretched it out about as far as we could. We've standardized that process. The 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth line down there on this slide shows what the total revenue generated for each one of these increases as to what we're going to have happen. So if we were to approve these rates in 2026 in October at 25 cents per axle and non-commercial, 25 cents on the commercial axle, and nothing for the pedestrians, right? By the end of the year, we would generate $1.4 million. And as you can see, as we go across the years that go out there, when we get a full year, and these are set out so that these increases would happen every January for the next 5 years at 50 cents across per axle for each one of these years. In 27, we would generate $11.6 million in order to help offset the debt service we'll talk a little bit more about as well too for the World Trade Bridge, and then 11.6 in 28, 12.3 in 29, 12.9 in 30, and 10.3 in 31.
Yes, go ahead.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Knapp, I'm just remembering something, I'm just very curious. How many companies do we cross, or how many? I don't know if maybe the Port of Entry or that MCA is here, they can tell us how many companies use these bridges.
Yeah, and I think the first question I would have for Ms. Hinojosa is do we know how many companies we have out there that are utilizing our bridge as essentially members?
Do we have them registered and?
Good afternoon, I'm Sana Hosa from the Laredo Bridge System. We have a total of 21,000 plus accounts.
21,000?
Yes, sir, accounts.
So that number, 11 million, it's gonna be spread out through the 21,000 people or company or trucks that are moving back and forth.
Yeah, and thank you, council member, for that, because I think that's a very good thing to look at. That is that the success of the city as well too. And I'll digress just a little bit on this, because we do property taxes across the board for that, and we provide all these general fund services within there. 62% of our police and fire budget is general fund related, with property tax, sales tax, and the bridge revenue that comes into it as well too. And because we spread it over our entire community, it offsets that cost or that impact, large impact to any one entity. It spreads it out a little bit there. So we talk about the 21,000 accounts there. We should also talk about the 2.5 million non-commercial vehicles that cross our bridge too, as well too. And we have a number of pedestrians that cross as well too. So they all help contribute to these numbers as to how to divide this out. I want to make sure, and I think this is probably a good time to express this as well too. This is not being put on the backs of the industry alone. This is about the use of the bridges all the way across. We are spreading this as best we can. As you can see in these numbers, there is an impact across all of the people that utilize the bridges, and we are trying to make all those numbers work within that process. So I appreciate that, because it is about taking that number and dividing it completely over as to what that kind of that impact is looking like. And the more you cross, and of course, you know, hopefully with the industry side, the more you're crossing is more goods are moving back and forth, and it helps on the economic side as well as too. The last line on this slide as well too is the total debt service. And this is the number that as we generate the revenue, we put it to work and we provide debt service. If we were to save up all of our pennies and pay as we go, that's one way to do it. We would never get half the stuff done that we are trying to accomplish because we can't leverage our process. But again, Laredo, just like every other city out there, they leverage all of our assets and we go and borrow so that we can get these fantastic jobs done, and then we pay it over a period of time. Laredo has excellent bond ratings. It has excellent financial services and everything else that we've done. 35 years, 36 years, we've gotten awards for our financial effort. And I think that the one thing I want to make sure that the public understands, we agonize over everything we're trying to do. We look at this stuff and we try to be very careful about what we put across. And I just want to make sure that I reiterate that with you as well too as to where we're going. But this slide here shows the impact as we are going through there. I will say on this slide as well too, because this was a conversation that happened. I think some of you actually had this with our financial advisors, so I'll repeat it as well too. We had the conversation at the Port of Entry as well too, is that this is based upon the assumptions that we are not available for any type of grants or any type of other revenue sources coming in there. This is a standardized method of what we think is going to happen. And Mayor, and I think you've had this conversation as well too, is that if we are able to receive 20 million in grants, 30 million in grants, that will offset the need for this whole 5-year plan. It'll adjust the end of that plan. We can adjust it back in a different way. This is about generating enough money in order to get the projects done and get the work done that we have to do. So the idea is that, I guess the way I explained it to the Port of Entry is that I can't stop it from affecting the rate today, but it will help affect the rate tomorrow. And the idea is about keeping this thing. I think the challenge we have, and we are, I'm going a little bit farther just because some of the things that I've been hearing as well too. We watch the tariffs. We watch those conversations. We watch what happens with the market. We have bridges in 2 states of Mexico and different relationships with both of them as well too. Our obligation is to operate a bridge and operate the bridge properly, operate it effectively, make sure it is financially sustainable, make sure that everybody is able to cross that bridge. I wish we had a lot of ability to adjust for that. I wish we would have go back to 2017 and we've done increases all the way through there. We would not be here today. I apologize to this council for having to do that. But the nice thing about what we have as this council, as this administration, is that we're not going to kick the can down the road. We're going to have the conversation and we're going to find a solution to this. So just want to make sure I reiterate that as well too.
Mayor,
Yes, you got a question?
Yes. Mr. Neb, you're showing right here a 5-year absorption of this.
Yes, ma'am.
There's another word, sorry, it escapes me. But originally it was proposed to be 4 years. So is it that we've increased an amount on the tail end, or we've taken that same amount that you proposed as an increase and you've stretched it over 5 years instead of 4?
So when we first looked at this, and we started with the 4-year, again, when you look at the finances, we need to make sure that we are solvent. We make sure that we're covered within all of our costs. So we try to receive those funds as soon as we can. What we've discovered in all of our conversations, whenever we're talking about fees and the need for revenue for certain things, and we're having that conversation with health insurance right now as well too, is that we understand where we're at. We are expending faster than we're bringing in the new revenue. That's the challenge we have, and every day that the state wants to reduce our property taxes farther, the benefit back to us, because we have to provide those services one way or another, that impacts our ability to get there. And so when we did the 4-year, we tightened it up. What the 5-year does is it puts us a little bit later to replace some of the reserves. Right now, we're spending money on the bridges. We're spending the money we already have in the bank in order to prepare all those documents.
And you're
We
talking
have to
about
put,
the-
we have to put that money back at some point.
You're talking about the engineering documents,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
preparation for the expansion?
Yes, ma'am. And we're doing both the World Trade, the Columbia, and we're planning all those things out there because once the presidential permits are received, we have we have 5 years, we have to be under construction or we lose that ability for that presidential permit. So that's the clock that's ticking. I think we had a little bit of the conversation at the last council meeting where we talked about can we stretch any of this thing even farther. And so that's how we got to the 5-year. We tried to find something that was enough to cover the debt when we go out there.
So this will cover it even though it's from 4 to 5 years, this still
But,
has that
yeah.
same?
As long as the trends continue the way we are, essentially what we've done, these funds go to the capital improvements we need first. And trying to hit the marks of the World Trade Bridge expansion and the Columbia Bridge expansion. From that, we wanna rise up our reserves because we want to have about 15 to 20% of our in reserves so that money is sitting there for that rainy day so we don't have to go out there and do a significant rate increase with less conversation. And so that is to help bring that up. And so we're dragging that out a little bit farther. And then, of course, we have the Capital Improvement Fund, which is the CIF, that gets talked about a lot as well, too. We're trying to build that fund up as well, too, because that has depleted faster as we've tried to make the improvements that have been, well, the can has been kicked down the road for a lot of things. We just had a long conversation last night about water security and everything else because we weren't investing in the right legs of that utility as much as we should. We are now. And so the same thing, same conditions lie over the top of the bridge as well too for this. And so, but yeah, so that's why we stretched it out. This still keeps us, as long as the trends and as long as what we anticipate is going to happen will happen.
And I know in this conversation, we've had a lot of people approach us about tagging on special projects to this fund. We'll raise it just a little bit and make that little bit only spend on X. Raise it a little bit and only spend on Y. And we've got these, health insurance costs are going up. We have, of course, our employee benefits that are costing more, all of the inflation that we see as a result of COVID and the policies that were instituted. So, I can appreciate that it seems as if you've presented a plan that is laser focused on the bridges and the expansion to keep it as a revenue generator for the city. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, and thank you for that because, yeah, that does trigger a couple other pieces I wanted to lay out there for that as well, too, is that we have the resolution out there, the 50-50 split for what happens with the toll rates as well too. That was put together when we built the World Trade Bridge. When that became our responsibility and everything, that was required for the bond covenants in order to have that resolution. It holds true today as well too. You need to understand that the bridges are a blessing and a curse for us, and it has an impact on our services. Within the general fund, and this is what the bridge rate study did as well too. I think it gets lost in the conversation because everybody loves the numbers. Police, fire, and streets traffic, those are the big four that are impacted by this asset and by all the services that we provide. We can't be the #1 port of entry and not have an impact to our neighborhoods. I mean, I just remember, Mayor, when we put together the emergency plan because we had trucks that could not cross because the Mexican side went down and they had to back up all the way down the loop, almost all the way over to TAMIU. That has an impact on our neighborhoods. That's why public safety is impacted by these expenses. There was a comment made just earlier as far as can all the districts reduce their projects and not do projects, put them off for a little bit longer. One, I would recommend never to kick the can down the road. If it needs to be done, that's what you're here for. You prioritize it out based upon the funding we have. But I want to make sure that everybody understands You can kick every project down you want out of the general fund. It'll have no impact on the bridge and the bridge revenue that goes in there. We borrow $50 million essentially, plus or minus, every year in order to do the general obligation bonds based upon the general obligation of the general fund. The bridge rates go to operational needs, not these projects. So if we offset the project, I guess the better way to say this for the public that's listening as well too, the general fund is broken down for property taxes, is broken down for M&O, which is maintenance and operations, and the INS, which is interest and sinking fund, which is your capital fund. We are doing all of our projects out of the INS side, which is property tax driven general obligation funding. The M&O side, we utilize property tax, we utilize sales tax, and we utilize bridge revenue and some other fees and fines and stuff that gets thrown in there. But those are the big three that revenue sources that we use. I want to make sure that the public understands we can eliminate every project out there out of the general fund, and it will have no impact on what the bridge needs and what we're trying to accomplish. The funds that go into the general fund from the bridge help with police, fire, transportation, traffic, everything that is associated with that. We don't need those funds in order to help with some of these other services that are not associated with that. I want to make sure that the public understands that. All right, I'll finally get off of this slide. This right here, this goes in a little bit deeper as far as what the projections are for the bridge financial split. This shows how the bridge revenues are utilized. Bridge revenues support operations, debt service, capital improvements, fund balance, and general fund transfers. The general fund transfer remains a significant component because bridge activity creates those impacts. I've already said that. I want to make sure everybody understands as well too, in our port of entry conversations and the conversation about we want to know what this money is being spent on. So do we want to make sure that we show what this money is being spent on. And that's what we tried to do again in the bridge rate study, as well as every one of our budget reports that we provide out. We want to make sure that everybody has that. If there's any questions or concerns within that, it should be a subjective decision based upon somebody else's idea that we shouldn't spend money here, we should spend it there. But that's what you guys have all been elected into office for. This chart here does a financial split. It shows how we break down the current for fiscal year 25-26, and then it shows the projected for every year as we go out within that process. This matches up to what we're recommending for the other side of that as to what we're trying to accomplish. And as you can see, I talked about the maintenance and operations side. That's why we are saying operations and maintenance on this slide as well too. All right, this is a worksheet that the finance department puts together. This shows a year-by-year projection of revenues and expenditures. It shows projected revenues. It shows the operating costs. It shows the debt obligations, the general fund transfers, the reserve requirements, and the available capital funding. This is intended to demonstrate how the bridge revenues flow through our system. Those that love the numbers, they'll understand this fairly well, I would think, as to where we're headed and how we're walking out through that flow of funds analysis. The bridge system currently, this is the overview for the bridge system and our debt that is outstanding. The bridge system currently has approximately $15.2 million in outstanding debt. The net revenues available for debt service are approximately $64.7 million. The coverage ratios have improved from 8.59 to 11.47 over the last 4 years. And the bridge system maintains strong credit ratings. And so we have a great foundation that we're building off of. It is about having the cash to do the work that we want to get done. So the bridge system is financially healthy. This is just our financial advisor that provides the disclaimer that this is just projections. This is the data that is in there. So it's all just for discussion purposes. The next few slides here, and I'll walk through them carefully because again, this was one thing that we want to watch for is the comparables as to what all the other bridges, all of our, for lack of a better way to say, the competitors that we have. These are the other points of interest that allow people to move from the U.S. to Mexico. And so we do want to be tracking that as well too. Just keep in mind that Laredo has one of the most technologically advanced systems out there, and that comes at a cost. We'd hope that our critical mass, because our critical mass is expanded out farther, it doesn't get any less expensive for that. We try to cover all those expenses as well too, but it is the more active our bridges get, then the more expensive it gets because it's about resource allocation of that. But here are some of the slides that we utilized in order to look at the current and future border city toll rate increase comparisons for the non-commercial. We have Laredo, El Paso, Hidalgo, McAllen, Starr County, Roma, Del Rio, Brownsville, Eagle Pass, and so on. And so we've looked at those. I will say that on the chart, as you look at that, as we project into the future, you can see the negative numbers. Those are just because we don't know what they're going to do in those future years as well either. And so we don't want to put any numbers in there that may be wrong. So that's why the negative numbers are out there. So these types of sheets are probably good for a current value look and to see, and we can look at their history as well too. And we have slides about their history because we can see their trend as to what they're doing within their system. I would just argue, though, is that we want to be very careful because we still have to cover all of our costs related to the bridge operations. So if we change our bridge operations, we can reduce what it costs us to operate, or we have to increase what it is based upon the operations of the bridge. None of these bridges operate exactly the way Laredo's do. And so I think that's something that you have to make sure you understand is that every bridge is unique in that way of how they're operating their services. So.
Mayor Bay?
Go ahead.
Mr. Neb, so if we look, I guess we'll look at the commercial. When you have these negative numbers, that is an indication that that bridge is charging below what the Laredo Bridge would be charging in the future.
Well, and as I described on the negative numbers, the concern with the negative numbers, if they don't have a rate plan out there.
Right, there's an assumption that these
they're
rates
leaving their rates alone.
Are unchanging.
Correct.
So
That's
we're
the
comparing
assumption.
it to 2026 rates.
Yeah.
But assuming that nothing changes, then it's showing what the Laredo comparison would be, and the negative numbers indicate we're gonna be higher
Yes.
by
Yeah.
a dollar,
Yeah, that's
$1.50, let's say,
That's a good way to describe it.
from El Paso, but that means that El Paso has not changed any of its numbers. And we know that several of these bridges, it's an assumption because we can't future cast if they haven't shared information, but at the same time, the expectation is that at some point in the future, they also will undergo a rate change.
We anticipate that, I think all of the bridges watch each other as well too, when you talk about the comparables. They're looking to try to see what the economics will allow for as well too, because they have the same needs of making sure that their bridges operate efficiently and effectively.
Thank you.
Yeah. And of course, this is the toll rate increase on the comparison for the commercial. Again, the 3-axle point within that, when it just show the differences within that, how that is operating across. This is a 2-axle. 5-axle. And so we just wanted to show some of these variables within that. These are probably the most prominent ones that are utilizing our bridge system, so we want to make sure that that's on there. So I wanted to make sure that you all understood that we do look at this for market competitiveness as well too. Just like anybody in the industry, they're looking at each other as well too to try to make sure that they set their rates that are in a competitive process as to how that goes. I think we play a part of that. I think the difference for us is that we need to make sure that our rates are standardized and understandable so that it doesn't, our rates don't cause a competitive advantage for anybody that utilizes our bridges. It's an equal price across, very similar to like the hotel occupancy tax as well too. As long as it's divided equally across the group, it doesn't create any economic negativity for the industry to compete against each other.
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
a couple of questions, Mr. Ham. So the question would be then, I know we're doing comparative analysis right now on bridge tolls and all that. I know that over the past, or at least since I've been here, I've been asking the question as to why, and you just mentioned it right now, that every bridge runs differently. What are the driving factors of why our bridge is increasing in cost, operational cost alone? And you guys have a better answer than I do on that. I have my assumptions, but those type of things I think need to be discussed in order for us to get a bigger picture, a clear picture of everything that we're doing here. That's number one. And the second question, I guess it's for Noé more than anybody else, because the other question would be, why can't we self-finance this project? In order for us to, so in a perfect world, if you finance this project on your own and you make the payment through your general fund or whatever it is, we wouldn't be having this discussion at all. So those questions need to, I think, also need to be discussed and brought forward in order for everybody to get an absolutely clear picture as to why this is being driven in the manner in which it's been driven.
Yeah, and I'll share a little bit of my understanding of what we're dealing with as well too. Essentially this is a public asset. This is a public bridge. Public entities we're not based upon profit margin. So we're not trying to build profits in there. I know that one of the comments that were made a little bit earlier as well too is that we should have been planning for this all along. And yes, we should always be planning forward for that in order to have at least some of those reserves built into this mix. But public entities are inherently, we take what we need and we don't take anything else. I mean, if you're going to take my taxes, I would like to make sure that they get spent rather than to go into a reserve or the bank outside of the rainy day. And so that is one of the things I think you have to understand is that we try not to tax anybody more than the funds that we need in order to get the job done. We try not to set our fees at a level because we're not a profit-driven type of entity. We are a service-related industry, and we're trying to cover all those expenses. What happens over time, if you do not increase it, say everything stayed the same and everything didn't change, costs still climb. So we have our bridges, costs are going to climb. Inflation changes everything. So the inflation rate goes up, the cost of goods go up, all the services that are trying to cross, they all go up, and then so we have to eventually have to catch up with that, and that's why we have to do periodic rate increases as well, because the cost of goods go up, the cost of services, employees working from a career from day one to the end of year 20 for their career, the value of that employee goes up. The insurance costs, the retirements, and all of those costs go up. And so when they go up, you can't, it's not a system that it has to breathe. I guess that's a better way to say that. It has to breathe and it has to be able to keep up with exactly what's happening. So the cost of living adjustments have to occur within that. The challenge we have within this whole conversation is we're trying to expand our bridges as well too. We're actually getting ready to invest farther because in the long term, these expansions are going to keep costs lower for everybody in the long term because we're going to be able to have people cross in a different way. Somebody mentioned about the technology and everything, and I think the automation and all those things, they are coming as well too, and I think they're going to be very important into our future success. We are trying to shift as we go through that. The fast lanes was a great example. I got one of my first days here, we actually had the ribbon cutting for the fast lanes and everything else. We try to stay on that. Port of Entry does a great job of trying to put forward all those great ideas that will make our bridges operate better. But our challenge right now is that we are trying to do these expansions within that. We're not asking for all the money on one day, and that's why we went to the 5-year cycle as well too. We're preparing to do a bond a bond sell prior to the end of the year if we stay on track with what we're doing right now. We're hoping to put the construction documents out in September and October if everything goes well. I alluded to it in my earlier statements. Don't know if that's all going to happen to that level because we are still waiting for information from Mexico, and we are still waiting for information from the federal government on the donation acceptance stuff. And so we are working through that. And that's why I want to make sure that we get this workshop done and we have all the questions answered, because we still have more work to do on the backside of this thing as we walk through this. But, so that, hopefully that answered your question. I know it's a little bit
A
farther.
little bit more, and it's because, you know, I think if we lay out every little bit of information that's out there, I think the picture becomes clear as we move forward. And so, but we have a checklist of items in there that we can just say, this is why we can't do this is why we're doing this, and down the line. So, I mean, I'm not sure how much of this project is driven by, government impact. Are we associated with any group within the government that tells us, look, you need your upkeep on these bridges and they need improvement? The OSHA standards have changed, the ADA standards have changed. Are all those things in consideration of this?
Yeah, we're impacted by the federal government, of course, because we have that relationship as to how we allow for them to cross. And you saw the difference in the price between the World Trade Bridge and the Columbia Bridge. That's because Columbia needs additional assets and this is that donation acceptance for the federal government. We have to install that infrastructure in order for them to do their work. And now they maintain it after they get ownership of that, but that relationship has to be there. So we have to provide it on the capital side, then we get kind of out of that day-to-day operation side of it. But those impacts are on there. TxDOT is another one, and know that TxDOT is not at the bridges directly, but it is the system that gets them to the bridges, that gets us through that area. And so when you talk to our police chief and our fire chief, it's not about the bridges alone, because that expanse is only this far. It is about the 2 miles of roads that are bringing it all in there. And I think those are the variables that we keep trying to add into that. But for your question, yeah, we're impacted by the federal and the state government. I would argue that the industry probably tells us if we're not operating our bridges at the right level, because I know that we're walking through a cold storage conversation as far as how we manage our cold storage within our relationships. And if the industry cannot get their goods to move the right way, they will come tell us, and then that'll probably trigger more often than not the conversation saying, how are we gonna fix that? But federal and state influences have that on there, but it becomes our obligation in order to maintain it to that level that they're not interfered with. I think it's probably the easiest way I can answer that one.
Mayor Matt?
What?
I'm glad you brought up the street issue, because, you know, Hichar-Ruthinger has been a road that has its storied past. And the fact that when that project finally got back on track, it was $100 million more to create a road that is up to the standards to handle the truck traffic. So it was a couple of things, right? The fact that the project had been so delayed, and also now it needed to meet TxDOT standards. But that $100 million of increase came from the city's MPO funds. So yes, we do have an obligation to it, and I completely support it. But at the same time, if it were not for that road, those $100 million could have been spent on local roads. And so now we have Hichar-Ruthinger going up, we have the Vallecillo going up again. Grateful for the federal dollars that come in, but those are federal dollars that could have been used for other roads. And we know the South is exploding. So now we have that pressure of we need this infrastructure in streets on the northern side to go along with these expansions. But at the same time, it is city projects in the South that are being delayed, road projects that are incredibly important, because where do we put our priorities? Only to say that we're juggling balls here, and we're trying to do the best that we can. There are costs involved, and these choices have consequences.
And I think that's a good point as well too. There are trade-offs on all of this. I will tell you that if we don't do something with our rates, and I I think what I've heard mainly from individuals in the industry is, don't do it today. The challenge is that we have $240 million worth of infrastructure that we need to keep moving forward, and we're spending our cash right now in order to keep it moving forward. At some point in time, you either hit the wall or we have to stop. And I think that's the challenge that we have with this thing, as to trying to figure out exactly how much to put out there. Somebody also said, and I can't remember where I heard that from, but every month we delay, it's another $20,000 more of what it's going to cost us as we move into the next year, as the cost of goods continue to climb and everything else. So the longer we delay, the price is only going to go up for this infrastructure improvements. And those are the things that I would just ask everybody kind of watch for and be careful of. I'm gonna finish out my part of the presentation, Mayor, if I can, I'm happy to answer any more questions as well too. But I know we have some other comments to be added to this. But yes,
Just one more. I know that we had discussed this in our prior meeting, and a number of factors are coming into play right now. There's a rising increase in operational costs for one. But is there any factors, because the bridges are the way they are designed right now, and the increase in flow and whatever other external factors are causing the city of Laredo, that instead of it being a 50-50 split, that it becomes more of a 55, 53, 47, or maybe 60-40 in that area? In other words, why is it that we're tapping further into our general fund in order to maintain the bridges as they are right now?
you know, and thank you for that. I'll answer that one. I don't know if everybody will appreciate the answer, but I'm gonna provide it anyway, because when we first started the walking through the bridge rate conversation, what we were discovering was that, and there was a misnomer out there in Laredo's mindset that the bridges are subsidizing the general fund. What we found is that because the bridges, number one port of entry, all these 22,000 trucks a day cross the bridges, 2.5 million cars cross those bridges every year. What we found was that impact on our general fund services was so great that the general fund has been subsidizing the bridges more than the bridges have been subsidizing. And understand that the synergy, we appreciate having this, because San Antonio has this electric utility. See how I thought I might trigger something, but it is. So just so you're aware of that. So when we walked through the bridge rate study, we looked at that, and so we considered whether or not the 50-50 should actually be 60-40 the other side as well too. I think the industry says they think it should be farther the other way as well too. It impacts us. It impacts our priorities no matter which way if you want to adjust that. What we did find at the end of the day, when we put it all together, we remain at the 50-50. It maintains a stability through the system, and as long as we're staying cognizant of where the rate should be, we're able to make the adjustments as we go, and it's a lot better. And so I know, but we walked through that. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that and heard that as well too, and I think they did. That we walked through that. We walked through that conversation because I know that was important to some of them in the industry. Does this still make sense? And I'm telling you today, the resolution as it is written makes sense. I think we want to clean it up and update it, because I think that over the years, it's an old ordinance or old resolution. It needs to be updated with some current information, but the process still stays true today.
Well, I mean, but the reason I'm saying that is because, you know, it has to be understood also that we do that department by department. How are we, and our efficiency study was because of that.
Yes.
We read it thoroughly. Where are we, are we losing money? Where are the fractures within those departments that are causing these expenses and cost increases and all that kind of stuff? Department by department, going down the line. If we're gonna be a city that's working efficiently, we have to do those things. You know, and so this is no different. We're just going through the process just like we would any other department and figuring out how are we gonna cut those costs, how are we gonna work as efficiently as we can. But the external factors that are out there that are causing us to have these conversations today are in a lot of ways are through no fault of our own, everybody in this room. You know, these are factors that we have to consider. The comparative analysis that we're doing right now with other bridges, everything has to be put on the table in order for everybody to be clear why we're going through this exercise. If we don't, we can just say, let's do it, and nobody's gonna be happy. So, thank you for that report, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'll share just a little bit more because of that as well too. We went through a bond referendum last year, and a lot of different personalities, a lot of different voices as to what that's doing. Keep in mind that that bond referendum was based upon kicking the can down the road. We have infrastructure, we have buildings that have not been maintained for the way they should be as well too. This has nothing to do necessarily with the bridge rates other than the similarities between the conversations that we're having. That bond referendum did not pass, which means that we now have to lean on what we're trying to do. The efficiency study was a great exercise to show let's pull back on some of these things. Let's prioritize out a little bit better. I think this council, every one of you have stated about let's get our priorities in line for that. We can't be everything for everybody. The challenge is though, the services that we do provide, including the bridge, have to be operated properly and they have to be done the right way. Happy to have all those conversations, happy to talk about what expenses we drop off on anything. You guys are talking about that on a regular basis, but it is very challenging in order to get there because I have a $3 million department that we'll be talking about whether or not we're going to continue doing that service. It is grant-driven department. It won't generate $3 million of revenue to put back to something else. And so that's the variables that we have to look at. It is a balancing act within all those different funds. So.
Get the last two.
Yes.
All right. Mayor and Council, yeah, just thank you for allowing me to at least cover that. I can't do it as well as my professionals do with it, but that's there. Our objective was to provide a clear understanding of the bridge system's current financial position, the capital improvement needs that have been identified, the assumptions incorporated into the proposed rate schedule, and the potential long-term implications associated with the future bridge expansion and modernization projects. As I discussed throughout the presentation, the bridge system remains financially strong today. We're in good shape today. The issue before us is not whether the system can meet its current obligations. It is rather how the city wishes to position itself for the future operational demands, the capital improvements, and the long-term trade infrastructure investments that we need to provide for our community. The information presented today is based upon the bridge rate study, the adopted capital improvement program, the annual budget, and the financial analysis prepared by our advisor. These documents collectively provide the framework for evaluating both the opportunities and the obligations associated with maintaining one of the most important international trade gateways in North America. Staff recognizes that several factors continue to evolve, including project implementation schedules, financing assumptions, procurement activities, federal coordination efforts, and other milestones associated with the future bridge improvements. All those items continue to mature. Staff will be able to further refine projections and recommendations for Council's consideration as we move forward. Ultimately, the policy decision before Council is not simply a discussion on toll rates. It is a discussion about the timing, the scale, and the funding strategy associated with future investments in the bridge system and the role those investments will play in supporting trade, economic development, public services, and the long-term competitiveness of Laredo. I know it's a difficult conversation. I appreciate the public that is here supporting their positions as well too. It is about the collective personality of Laredo that actually works in its favor for that, and we'll have great conversations as we go forward. So I just want to make sure I express my appreciation for all of that. I don't mind the differences of opinions and everything else. We're all trying to do the best we can and trying to move Laredo forward. This is another one of those conditions that we are trying to make sure that the decisions that are made set Laredo up for success for a long term forward. And we try to do that in the best possible way, because one thing that I recognize about this council is that you're willing to have a conversation on any difficult item out there if it's going to improve the lives of our people in Laredo. And so I'll just say thank you for that as well too. I'll stop talking. I'll sit down, and Mayor, Council, thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Neb. I think we still have two public comments here, if you wish to address them right now. Mr. Maldonado?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Jerry Maldonado for the record. That was a lot of information, Mr. Neb. Thank you. I wrote a lot of things down, and I am confident that everything you said is factual. I have no doubt about it. Every one of us in the industry manage and operate a company, and we have someone that does your job. Has to look at the numbers, and at the end of the day, has to be able to figure out how we're going to pay for things, whatever the needs may be. A couple of comments that I do want to share with council. I'm not a fan of the language of kicking the can down the road. That is not our intention. Our intention is what projects are not needed today, right now, that can be placed on hold and done later. We are in agreement that every time you wait on something, it's going to cost you more money when you do it. We understand that. It happens in our world, and it happens in your world. If I want to change the electronic log that every truck has in my company, it's going to cost me money. But I have to look at it in a way of, I have 100 trucks, what's going to be the cost today? Can I afford to do it right now? Do my financials allow me to make that expense today? And if they don't, then you wait. And yes, a year from now, that device is probably going to be more expensive. That's the way the world works. We understand that. Our intention has never been to make the future harder for anybody. Our intention has been, what can we do now that can wait? And we know it's going to cost money. Why was that language brought up? Because the city of Laredo, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's currently running a $1.1 billion budget? 1.01, right? And the Bridgetoll revenues last year, the total revenues was 88 million. And according to one of the many slides that we've seen, the operating costs for the bridge system was 21 million. So you take 88, you take half, that goes to the general fund, that's 44. Out of the 44 that you keep, you get 21 for cost, that leaves you 23 million. And we understand the explanations that you did. We know the math. It's also been said repeatedly that the industry puts a burden on our fire and police. And that may be true. There's a lot of trucks, right? There's accidents, unfortunately. I would like to know what percentage of accidents that both fire and PD on a quarterly basis or yearly basis actually have a commercial vehicle tied to them. That's data that we would like to just to see if 50% of the calls are involving a commercial vehicle, or 80%, or maybe 10%, you know. There is a strain that is put on those services. We completely understand that.
3 minutes, Mayor.
Go ahead.
But it's just, our way that we look at it is, the proposed 5-year plan, in our world, we never make a deal with no customer, and no customer makes a deal with us for a 5-year deal where every year they're going to increase, or I'm going to increase them something, right? It's not good for business. And I would respectfully ask management, which one of your vendors do you put it in writing that you're going to give them an increase for the next 5 years? Is that a common practice in your world?
Would you like me to answer?
No, it's not a dialogue. Just go ahead.
I'm not supposed to, you know,
Well,
I would like to address some of it, but it's.
Point of order, Mayor. So, point of order, are we in a workshop or are we at a special council meeting? Because right now, we said that we were in a workshop, and then we said that we're in a council meeting, and we're gonna go back and forth with respectfully, right, without people getting,
Yes.
outrageous, just trying to figure out, are we doing a workshop, or are we doing a council meeting?
Mayor and council,
So,
it is a special council meeting, and even with the workshop, the intent of the communication is to allow them to talk with council for that. It is not about, it's not about sitting around the table.
Point of
and-
order.
and that's the challenge we
And
have.
respectfully, I do understand, Mr. Neb, but at the same time, my motion last time was to make a workshop, Mayor. So what I'm asking, are we doing a workshop? And we agreed with, we all voted for a workshop. So, to discuss, so.
Just for the record, we let our industries know that it was a workshop.
And
They were all gonna have.
You wanna step up and talk, please?
So the,
Sorry, Rick Laurel for the record. We let our industries know that this was gonna be a workshop, just like you said, Mr. Rangel. So they're here to give input. They're here not just to watch and waste 3 hours, so.
They didn't sign up for
It is for everybody. I don't need to sign up for public comments if I'm addressing a question. So, we're here to offer you guys input on trade. But if you're gonna tell us what it is, then what are we here for?
So,
All right, thank you. All right.
We'll have
Mayor,
legal, so
the
you wanna
challenge,
bring
the
it
challenge
to
we have is that even in a workshop setting, the setting of the council, because you're in session, the nature of a workshop or a special session or a regular council meeting have no bearing on exactly the way the conversation is supposed to go. I'd love to have more of this the dialogue and everything else, but I think that's the challenge with our
You
system.
give us an opinion, legal.
So as of right now, we are here for a special meeting, so we have to conform with all of the rules from any other city council meeting. What makes it special is that it goes out of the order of our or the first meeting of the month or the third meeting of, forgive me. We usually have a meeting of the first week of the month, the third week of the month, correct? It is a special meeting because it was called by the mayor, so we have to typically go through the same rules as any other meeting. So when there is a public comment, even on an item, for example, there's 3 minutes that are given to the speaker, and each one of the council or members of the governing body can give an additional 3 minutes for a grand total of 30 minutes on an item, okay? And as of right now, any questions that are directed from the speaker in this situation, in this case, it would be directed to Mr. Neb, would be completely rhetorical questions, okay?
fair enough.
Yes, no dialogue.
There's no dialogue.
For legal.
Yes, sir.
So can you explain to us what's a workshop?
What's a workshop? I do not understand what a workshop is in terms of we are talking about one particular thing, right? When we have a workshop, let's say it's about public safety. Typically, the only subject for that workshop is public safety. It's one issue that we are discussing collectively, but the rules of decorum still follow in the same type of meeting. For this meeting, we have multiple issues. We have not only the bridge toll rates, but we also have our insurance. So I would say that this falls better into the category of a special meeting versus a workshop.
I believe that a workshop does not have public input. That is what we discussed when we got in here. That's the difference. I personally want to discuss this item ad nauseum. I want everybody from the industry to come out here and be heard. Why? Because I want everybody to be absolutely clear as to where we're going with this and how we're gonna get this done. So the more input we get from the industry, the better it is for everybody, in my mind. So if this is not a workshop, I'd like to hear from them.
All right, go ahead.
Also, they asked to speak on the item, and in the past, when that is the case, there is a dialogue. So I think it's unfair to treat this any differently. You're speaking on the item, a dialogue
Right.
is welcome.
They can speak on the item, and we can continue speaking on the item.
Yes, I have no other item to speak on. Sorry.
You want to speak on the insurance?
No. I am good.
You sure?
And I guess to go back to my comments, $88 million in bridge toll revenues. If anybody feels that the industry does not pay their fair share, I would like to have a conversation with you separately. We feel we pay our fair share. And the comparisons, the slides are great data. You cannot compare Laredo to El Paso to Eagle Pass or to anybody else in my opinion, because every bridge is different. Every city has different operational costs. And I'll use Eagle Pass. I don't know their numbers. Or the highest one, whatever the highest was there in the bridge tolls per axle. They have to come up with certain amount of money a year to pay for their expenses. But if their border crossings are only 1,000 a day, then that's the math they use. So yes, there may be another port that has a higher cost per axle than us, and that can be in a way interpreted as, oh, there's some, we're behind. No, not really. Our volume compensates that. One of the slides also showed that in the last 4 years, the dollar amount that increased on bridge toll revenues was $21 million over the last 4 years. So yes, there was no increase in commercial side since 2017, that is correct. But every year, there's been an increase in volume. So you collect more money. And that's good. That's how we have contributed to the growing needs of the city, of everything that we are speaking of today, all the infrastructure needs that are needed. And yes, I agree with you, that road should have been built 10 years ago. And every day, every year that we waited, it cost us more money. Where do you shift the resources? I'll tell you where we shift our resources. My equipment goes, and if my customers are listening, it's not a secret, to my highest paying customer first. That is how we shift our world, right? If I have 10 trailers, I'm gonna give them to the highest paying customer because I'm there to make a living. Where should the city, is it justifiable that the city shifts money to the area that needs the most help infrastructure-wise? I would agree, because those bridges are the reason we are the #1 port. And we want to continue to be that. We want to continue to work with the city. But the increases, what Mr. Neff said is true. But the other side of the story is we have continued to pay more year over year because our volumes continue to grow every single year. Last year was a fluke. It didn't grow the 5%. That's true. It's true. But prior to that, we had continuously grown every year. And I understand the math more now than I did before when it comes to where the money goes. And I understand that there's needs that need to be done with the city. But our membership cannot agree to a 5-year commitment of continuous increases. It's not the way we do business. And that's the part that Sid's wrong in making that deal, because many things can happen, and that's the part that it just doesn't sit right with us.
Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Maldonado, is the suggestion then that the increase go in next year?
So the suggestion is that we do understand that getting the expansion is going to cost money. We completely get it, right? And there's going to be money needed to get the bonds and the loans or whatever the language is.
And maintain the bond
And
rate.
maintain and everything. We completely understand.
The bond rate at a schedule that the city can financially
Yes.
absorb.
So before we got to the bridge toll increase, that's when we suggested, is there anything that can be put on hold now so that if we need 10 million on the first year, is there anywhere in the whole budget where we can save 10 million, kick the can down the road and not do that now so that we can pay for those first 10 million, right? And yes, we understand somebody's going to suffer. Whatever project may not be done today, we get that. But that's where we compromise. That's what we do in our daily lives every year. If the financials don't add up, I'm not building another cross dock. I'm not buying more trucks or more trailers. I have to wait, and that's the reality that we live in. And yes, if I wait another year to buy more trailers, it's going to cost me more money. Everything goes up. We get
Mr.
it.
Maldonado, I guess apologies. I don't understand then, where do you see these increases coming in? If you're understanding why we need them because of the expansions, and I assume you're in agreement for the expansions, then what is your proposed schedule to get to that amount that we need to finance these improvements?
The first question is something we've asked before. What study has been done to save 10 million over the next 5 years?
But you're not explaining why 10 million over 5 years is...
The one of the slides said that every year with the increase, they're going to raise 10 million on average. right?
Right, but that's been, proposed to be able to pay off those bonds.
Yes.
So that financially, the stability of the city is not impacted. I mean, the higher bond rate we maintain on all of the bonding that we do, we get a better rate so that our taxes are not raised, or I guess more projects can be done, services can be provided for the benefit of the city.
So the proposed increase is to generate an additional $10 million a year to pay, correct? So that's what I saw on the slide on the bottom, 10 million, 10 million, 10 million, right?
Right.
So our first question is, before we go and raise the bridge tolls to a certain area, what study was done respectfully by the city to reduce their spending by 10 million before you go and have to raise something? That's the question. That's the original question.
So
Nothing,
what-
we don't
and-
feel that
and
we don't feel
please-
that was done.
Well, I disagree, but please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not an accountant. But the 10 million is what we need in order to be able to float these bonds in the manner prescribed so that we don't blow through our 5-year limit for those expansions on the bridges. We're on a clock. Like, that clock started once those permits came in. So things need to be accomplished by a certain time frame. That means monies have to be expended on a certain time frame in order to get these expansion projects done. And they're not just the bridge expansions. I mean, we've talked about the technology upgrades and the other additional infrastructure to the bridges that are needed, which the additional traffic on the bridges makes us more aggressive in that because of wear and tear, right? So there are certain infrastructure projects that have to go in as well for the basic maintenance and operations of those bridges. So it sounds as if you're saying you're in agreement with the expansions, but you want to delay, but I don't think that $10 million
No.
isn't 10 million just to spend as cash. It is to undergird our bond proposals so that we can maintain this schedule of spending in order to reach the bridge expansions at the end of this period of time.
Do you want to answer that? Name for the record, please.
Please excuse me. David Quaid for the record. My question is, and I guess maybe it'll stop all the other questions, how much debt service coverage do you have to have in order to float those bonds? Because it seems extremely high. You have 3, 5, 8, and 10%. And is the monthly payment going to be 10 million a year, a month, or what is it? Why do we have such a high debt service coverage on it? On, and servicing the debt. Why can't we do it 2 times over to reduce what the cost is going to be?
Mr.
So-
Then maybe you can answer that.
Mayor
I
and
mean,
City
I don't know
Council,
what the bond-
our financial advisor will be here in 10 minutes.
All right.
And I would rather have him give you the
I hope
best
he brings
answer.
the
I mean,
lunch for
we've got
everybody.
our,
Because
I think
see
we got
that
our
you
budget
have- You have
director.
8 times over, 11 times over. Why would you have so much to service the debt? That's overstating
Well-
what you're having in the savings.
We'll be able to explain that, because there is science to exactly why we have to do it the way we're doing it. So, and that's where that is all laid out for that. If I can
Okay.
go a different direction for that as well too, and Jerry, this was, what I believe I hear Mr. Maldonado's talking about, when we're talking about putting off projects and everything, not necessarily just project, but because he's using the 10 million on average of new revenue that we come in there. What I'm hearing is that of the 43 million that the city gets from the bridge toll rates, don't take $43 million, take
Exactly.
10 million,
Thank you.
10 million less.
So that is exactly what I was, and thank you. So out of the 88, you take 44. So if you need an additional 10 million a year, then don't take 44, leave another 10 there, and that fixes the problem. It fixes the problem of paying the loan and the debt. Yes, it's gonna unbalance the city budget by 10 million every year, and I get that. But if you compare 10 million of a $1 billion budget, respectfully, you should be able to play around with it before you go to the bridge tolls and try to increase them for that amount. That is exactly what I was going to. So keep.
And Mayor, and may I, if I'll answer it a little bit farther, just so you know, it It is not 10 million out of a $1.01 billion budget. The general fund is $260 million. So that'll be a almost a 4% reduction in that cost. The math still works for exactly what he's talking about. But also know that, I guess for the last 22 years, we've reduced our property tax rates by a penny, which would have, if we would have been able to hold that property tax at the levels it was, we would be in a lot different level for that. We're going to see at least a 3.5 to a 4%, possibly up to a 5% increase in our costs associated with that as well too. So we are talking about a 10% fluctuation within the general fund with the 260 million. And so I appreciate the question and everything, but that would be the way to understand how to answer that one. That was the idea, is to trying to change the 50-50 model. During this time.
Help the bridge tolls pay for the bridge and its needs now and its future before we grab from it. That would be our suggestion, and that's where those.
And if I could, again, the way this rate study is set up, it is not just the industry that's impacted.
No, correct.
Now, I want to make sure, because there's 2.5 million non-commercial vehicles crossing our bridges as well too, that are impacted as well too. And so the impact is shared across. I just want to make sure, because it is not just about the commercial side. That is, in our minds, that is our primary one, but all the other work, because we have 4 bridges.
What would be the percentage, Ms. Hinojosa?
Mr. Ceballos, you want to come up here?
Of commercial, of crossings compared to regular?
Okay, do you have a question?
Monica Salinas, just to add to your comment of non-commercial, a lot of our employees are non-commercial and are paying daily the bridge.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
So, did I clarify the question?
Well, I think so, but I think the clarification also came from Mr. Knapp. You're not talking about, and I get it, the $1 billion budget is this huge number. But because we have so many different funds that are enterprise funds and that are self-sustaining, the utilities fund is a large fund in our budget. It gets wrapped into the comprehensive budget, but the $10 million isn't impacting that. It exists outside of it. So, and a lot of people say, we should raise bridge rates even more so we can pay for our utility needs, because we have hundreds of millions of dollars of needs. But you don't do that. You keep those budgets separate. So the $10 million you're talking about is out of that 270 million
yes.
budget.
Yes.
Right?
Whatever goes.
It's significant. When you're looking at 10 million versus $1 billion, people have an idea in their head. 10 million out of 270 million is much different.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Just, Mr. Maldonado, quick question. Is, for the past 10 years, I know we haven't raised anything, right?
Correct.
How many companies have been formed since the past 10 years? And like, I don't know, right now you represent a party.
I would estimate locally,
How many companies have come from the outside to Laredo and, set up shop here in Laredo and start using our bridges as well? Like, I know that from 10 years, we didn't have a number that back then.
I wouldn't have the actual number to it, but I'll answer with this, Councilmember Raquel. Warren Transport moved to Laredo in 1981. The company was founded in 1949. And we've got 50 plus acres of land locally. The amount I'm sure we can come up with a number, but that's that many more people that are being employed by our industry, that are paying taxes locally for our property, our land, our trucks, everything. So I think that's actually a number in our favor, because the more that companies that come here and buy land and set up shop in Laredo and employ more people in Laredo, it's better for everybody. So I don't know the number, but I guarantee you
A follow-up question, like, when you charge to cross, do you guys have a cap? Like, do you have a cap of how much you can charge to cross to?
No, there is no.
You decide how much you wanna,
The market and our competitors dictate that. So for our border crossing locally on a dry van, the range that we pay the people that physically do it
Is there a way that we can also see those numbers? I'm not saying
I
publicly.
mean, I'll give you
but
what I
just-
pay, anywhere between $150 to $185. That's what I pay company XYZ to cross my trailers every day, right? But everybody pays differently. There's people that charge you, if it's a hazmat load, you pay $350. If it's, if it's a flatbed with, over-dimensional stuff, then you pay a little bit more, right? So the market dictates that more than anything. It's not a number that, there's no cap on any, I mean, I hope nobody pays $100 for that today in today's world, right? That 20 years ago, that's probably what the going rate was.
Yeah.
But that just changes and fluctuates.
So it's a
And it doesn't get, and also that number, when we make a contract with a customer, that number stays there for a year, right? Whether the diesel goes up for border crossings, or the diesel goes down, or the bridge tolls go up or down. So it's a number that we got to play with every year when we do our bids with our customers. And it's just the way our world works.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Ceballos, you have you want to talk on the item also?
Jose Ceballos with Vasquez Embarcadero Industrial Park. So I wanted to jump in because there is a number when he was saying about the general fund transfer. When in the projection flow of funds chart, there's roughly about 6 million, between 5 and 6.5 million, that would be added to that share, right? So you could also, as a council, say, well, we won't take any more than we're taking today to try to get, at least for the period that's agreed upon, right? And then you basically say to industry or to this project, well, we're gonna leave that there. We're gonna stay at 44 million instead of going all the way to 73 million, right? So that wasn't discussed, but that number is embedded in the flow chart that you all have. So that reduces potentially the increase that you would need. Now, that means that the share of impact, Mr. Neb describes, I see it differently. Mr. Neb describes it. I agree industry does punish roads, and obviously the problem when we start making that judgment and you're looking at an economic driver, economic drivers create jobs. Things get sold, things get bought, purchased, transported, whatever. But when you start looking at an industry, you could look at the recreational industry too, and they're gonna generate impacts. So it's important not to signal out or call out a particular industry for an increased amount of impact. We realize, obviously, we're in the business that the trucking industry is core to what we do, but it's already embedded. There's a share, there's $44 million going in today to the general fund. So one option is for you to look at how that maybe stops there for the next 2 or 3 years, however this race ends up. But one thing I want to be clear, and I think everybody in the room agrees, I mean, World Trade Bridge needs to get built. There are cities that are looking at infrastructure improvement plans on the Mexican side. Reynosa is looking at a new connection. Ruta 57 is looking at a connection to Eagle Pass. So those things, we need to make sure that World Trade Bridge moves ahead while we work through these other projects. I agree with Mr. Maldonado. I think we need to figure out what needs to happen now. Like the World Trade Bridge expansion. What do you need for Colombia? Perhaps some feasibility money, and put a number on that. But to blanket out 5 years in a suppressed economy, I think it's asking too much. The reaction from industry is not abnormal. You're asking for a 50, not you, in general, the project is asking for 57% increase from today to 5 years. It's reasonable in any market for folks to react when you're jumping at that high rate. Now let's bring it back. I agree, let's taper it back to what we need to do. And maybe what industry and some of us have been asking is look at perhaps saying, okay, for the next 2 or 3 years, we won't take more than the 44 million. We're gonna generate more, but let's take that 7 million and put it into debt service. The debt service, according to your chart, is 18 million by the second year. Actually, the second year is higher than, the third year is much higher, and then it levels off. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong chart, but it's 18.5 million once it hits that marker, right? So if you take out 6 that you're gonna borrow against what you would have gotten to the general fund, now you're contributing. Now, if we say, well, this economic driver that are the ports are having higher impact, the analogy that Mr. Neb was using, yes, they're having higher impact, but they're still giving you $44 million. They're still generating revenue. The bridge system is an extremely successful enterprise. It's just that we want to do too much with it. Those are the comments, and I think most of that we've shared before, but hopefully we can come back, taper what's needed, and come back with something reasonable.
All right, thank you.
Mayor,
Thank you.
Mr. Gonzalez didn't have,
Mayor, I believe that the question still hasn't been answered, though.
All right.
You were given a lot of numbers.
Name for the record, please.
Rene Gonzalez for the record.
All right.
You were given a lot of numbers, but what's paying it? Is it the 50% of the bridge expansions, or is it the 50% going to the general fund coffers? Because the bridge tolls is one thing, the coffers another. You right now, you're showing your bridge revenues for adopted budget for 25-20, which is present year. You came up with a $3 million balance. Mr. Maldonado said there's money that can be taken. A lot of us here in the different items work in nonprofits. You have a zero balance. You work with a zero balance and you try to. You haven't answered the question: is where is this money going to come from to pay this if you do increases? Or if we don't do an increase, where is that savings coming from? Is it coming from the 50% of the 1998 resolution, or is it coming from the bridge tolls? Because if you come from the regular part of the bridge, you're not going to have an opening balance of $3 million because that's going to pay for that stuff. So the dialogue still has to continue. We were told as a workshop, now there's a first reading item. First reading takes you to the process of second reading and original. We're over here in the industry at the workshop phase. Mr. City Manager is 2 steps ahead of us. I already want to make a decision on something that you haven't presented. Mr. Hinojosa is going to show us, hopefully, the numbers that will tell you where it's being paid. Mr. Hinojosa, how you doing? Long time no see. The information is not being provided to you. Forget us. Just to you, who's going to make the decisions of where that money is going to. And I hope that there is patience in this project, in this item, because there's money there. You showed an item that said $5 million in debt service budgeted, and then the next slide, which we didn't have again, shows that there's only $50 million in debt service for that year, for the next couple of years. So then you can pay stuff. You have a budget item that says construction projects at $7 million for this year, for the proposal of this present year. There's money going in budgeted for these items. So where is this money supposed to go? Who's going to pay for what? Those are the questions that you have to ask yourselves that we're asking of you. Mr. Hinojosa, I mean no disrespect with this, but when I go to a meeting at 12 o'clock, and I'm told, he would have been told, be here for a 12 o'clock meeting, not for a 1:30. And I think that's the respect that the industry is feeling right now, or the lack of respect that is being told to us. And because Mr. Hinojosa could have made a schedule at a different time if prepared properly for it. But this, and it's a reflection on you all as city council members, say, this seems like what you do, a juggle act, because, oh, let's do the item at 12, and maybe the people will be gone by 1:30 when he finally gets here. It's a defensive side to be with. We don't want to be in that defensive. Mr. Maldonado said, we all want to respect each other. Everyone wants to do good numbers. We want to have the numbers that everybody has. We want to see what we can pay, what can't be paid by the industries. This is a learning experience for everyone. Everyone's going to grow together with this. We do these things for a purpose. You knew, like I said before, you worked with 32 million in the past. You have 40-something million. You don't even know what's in the general fund items are paying for what. Can the bridge, the general fund now do another $10 million in payments? We don't know because you haven't got protections yet. You don't know if you can say that or not. We need to know. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is the power that you have. As representatives of us, we respect you to do the right thing. And we look forward to continue working with you all. As industries, as organizations that work with them, as people that bring money to the table, we want to work with you and continue to work with you, and we wish you all, prayers on this issue, because this is an important issue for Laredo for the rest of the future of our destiny. It's part of our destiny as Laredo. Thank you.
Mayor, may I?
Thank you.
I wanted to
You have a
comment,
question?
Mr. Gonzalez. I do think, or maybe for everyone, I do think what is perhaps not represented in these papers is that the fund balance at the bridge has already been tapped to move these projects forward, because there are timelines for these bridge expansions that need to be met. And in government, what I think all of my colleagues have learned here is that everything takes a lot of time. So you have consultants working on these plans, that it's months in preparation, those expenditures are already being made. So the fund balance has already been tapped to move the project forward. Those consultants have given us the timeline. It's not something we're creating out of whole cloth. They've put out the schedule of when those monies need to come in so that they can be leveraged to do these bonds that I guess Mr. Hinojosa is going to explain a little bit better. But just to understand, it's not something that we're just coming up with to antagonize anyone, right? These are consultants who work on big projects, big construction projects, and they have laid out a timeline for us and worked on the design plans, which take their own amount of time.
Mr. Hinojosa? You're on. Come. I think you're, oh,
Mayor, can we bring Mr. Puig up here to ask the question specifically to Noe Hinojosa? Yeah, please, because it's gonna be important to do that.
all right. Mr. Puig, you want to ask the question?
Yeah, I was gonna put, Mr. Hinojosa's slide up there as well too.
How you doing? It's been a long time. You got a little grayer, man. I got a little fatter.
City council. No, I'm just
David
kidding.
Puig for the record.
Let's say that.
Just a quick question.
Please.
To float a bond, do you have to have a certain debt service coverage in order to maintain?
Most definitely.
Well, what's that number?
Well, considering it's a bridge deal, consider you have about $250 million being issued, the greater the coverage, the better.
I understand.
There's
but
not a
what
precedent.
number
I
is it?
cannot tell you
Because
specifically.
there has some, there's 3, there's 5, there's 8.
Well,
So do we need to use
if you look
those?
at it, we got numbers right now 17 and a half times. So if I'm invested in this system, the lower the coverage, the more risk.
No, I understand.
They have.
I know how that works.
Well,
But what I'm asking, what, 17, that means 17 times over you could pay the note.
that's today. There's
That's
no
today.
notes.
Okay.
There are
but-
no notes outstanding.
Right, but okay, then what is it if you didn't? And how much more do you have to keep the bond rating at the rate that you want and not going to the 5
It
and
is
10 and to
really
the 11%?
price discovery. Price discovery meaning that the rating agencies haven't seen this kind of investment in Laredo. So is it gonna be 3.5 times? That's where we're at? I don't know. It could be water sewer system,
Okay,
do
so
1.5
then
times.
are you gonna approach them first and say, hey, you know what? Can we get away with 2.5 times or 3.5 times? They give us a rate of 4.5.
The rate
or 5,
agencies
how
don't
does that
normally
work?
tell you in advance, you're gonna preserve the rating. You basically go in and tell them, here's my plan. If they're confident of the plan, they'll say, okay, I like your plan. The greater the coverage, the better for me to retain the
No,
ratings.
and understand it. I do the loan right now myself.
Of course, well, that's what we want. At what rate? At what interest rate?
But
So
understood,
it's
I'll
easier
give
to
them, I'll give you all that interest rate.
And what,
if
at
you do it
3%,
17 times over.
3.5%?
No, that's not even
Well,
what
that's
that
what this
comes
is.
out.
I mean, you think about the rates.
But that's not what the
5.3.
rate is there. Just
Yeah,
add a little
rate
bit on
right
the
now-
top and what I, a little bit more.
Can we put that on the screen so we can see it?
Here,
Okay.
Yeah.
4.8.
There we go.
Right, but that's at that, but,
30 years out.
okay, so then, but you're saying that you don't know if it's, you have to be at
It is
11?
price discovery, meaning that there's not many international toll bridges across the country that have this amount of debt
I understand.
with this kind of history,
understand.
and now it's new.
No,
So we're gonna
understand.
be doing
No,
this-
just my question was to you first, was, does it have to maintain that? But we don't know until you present it to the bonding.
So your question was initially, what kind of a number do we
What
need to
the
have
rate?
coverage? So normally, when you have a system, like this one that's been around for what, 60, 80 years? We have had coverages in the neighborhood of 5 to 4%.
Okay, so that's normally what you use, because it's kind of high, and that was the question for anybody else. If we could have used a lower rate on the debt service coverage, then maybe you could ask for less amount of money instead of, less of increasing.
You
the rate,
either
you know?
lower the principal
Right.
on being borrowed, so you can have lower annual payments, or you have lower interest rates. You can actually
Or
go
a lower-
further
a lower
out.
fee that you're gonna be, that you're
Sure,
gonna be.
a lower, well, the
Well,
fee,
the
just so
cost
you know.
that you're gonna require from the industry. Because right now we're going over, it's 25, 50, and 50.
So
50,
the
and
rate
25.
increases are over a period of 5 years. That's what is being proposed
No,
by staff,
understood.
right? So we're not necessarily asking the council to give us this rate increase from one year to the next.
Well, every year it changes, so it goes up.
He does, but I
The
also
first
have
year's
said to the
25.
council,
The
we've
quarter
also
of a
said.
percent in October, and then it goes up another, it goes 50%,
Yeah.
50 cents the next year, then
Mhm.
50 and 50 and 50.
But we've also said to the council that you have the authority to rescind the rate increase. You don't have to automatically do it. What you do is you put a rate structure in place, and if you have exceeded your expectations on revenue,
Okay,
then
then
you can
that's, then
stop.
that's another conversation that we
That's
have to have
never
with
been
everybody else.
shown to
That's
us.
never been brought up.
That's never been
That's
told.
why they're all here, which I'm a part of the port.
If
authority.
you would have been
Thank
here at the last
So-
workshop, I think I mentioned that.
Yes, it
Were you
is.
here last week? Well, then, when we
Last
was-
week, there was no workshop.
Yeah,
This is the first workshop.
No, no,
There
don't
was
kill,
no
it, don't kill the message.
No, don't worry about, don't kill me either. I mean, I
No,
think,
no, no, I
well,
just-
don't kill this council either.
No, no one is trying to do, we need the,
Well,
we need
I'm
the,
not
we
killing
need the.
anybody, right?
Okay, well, we just want to understand where the dollars are going to, if it makes sense to do that, if it needs to be done. And if there's a surplus, do we need to keep increasing by 50 cents every year? Or maybe it'll be 10 cents, or maybe it'll be 5 cents, or maybe it'll be 20 cents. We don't know, but we're sticking to this number that is just a black or white, the way that we're looking at it right now. We need the projects, there's no doubt. We're not trying to be adversarial here. We're just trying to see what makes sense, because maybe we may have to ask for those monies for another project. And then we could get some of those monies for somewhere else. But if we could reduce this, and get the bond rating that you want.
What do you think? should
I
be the
don't know,
number?
I'm not in the budget.
Well, I just
Don't
tell you,
hire me.
if I wanna lend somebody money.
Well, you need to get
If the
that
rating
checked out
agencies
first.
are gonna give you a rating, don't you think you go to the market with the optimal rating? The city has a AA too,
No,
right?
I'm not saying not to do that, I'm asking you, we don't know
And
how
I'm
it works.
answering you, that
Okay.
there's price discovery. Is that,
Okay.
I don't
Well, then
know,
go in it that way, and then give the, if it's less, then let's go back to the industry and say, this is what it is.
Mayor,
I don't
well,
know.
well, I think, look, I think everybody will be, if you weren't here at the last meeting, he went over it in detail. I think if we hear his presentation again, because that's all we did again. We kind of went off the rails a little bit over here and doing this question back and forth. You had a great presentation, last time that you were here. I think you're gonna go over it again, and a lot of these questions can get answered. Now, a lot more questions are gonna come from this. Okay, so after we do that, then we can sit down and do it again. Like I said, from my personal point of view, I wanna speak to this ad nauseum, but we're not gonna solve that today.
I mean,
Today,
even after
you have a job to
today,
do
you're not making a decision today
Right,
on
no.
rate increases.
Right.
So you don't think that we're gonna go in.
No, and we just want to understand, we know the project's needed, we passed it, I'm in the industry too, so we know it needs to be done, we just want to make sure that.
But we're
that
not
has been
passing, we're
covered.
not passing a resolution after this presentation
No,
today.
understood, but it could have been voted to increase if we wanted to, because that's what this council meeting had today.
Not today, no.
Do you have a question? Go ahead.
It's a workshop.
We have a question here on the,
Yes, no, I do wanna add to the point that it's incredibly unfortunate and disappointing that management brought it to the table the way that they did, because yes, after today's meeting, there is an action item.
There is an action item, and no
After,
disrespect.
it will come back, from my understanding,
June 15th.
at the next meeting.
At the next meeting today,
June 15th.
or June 15th?
Yes.
Isn't it on the agenda today?
It's a discussion, it's out for discussion, but it's.
There's no action.
There's no action taken on this
But
item.
it was brought forward as a public hearing and an introductory ordinance.
Okay, well, thank you
So-
guys, appreciate it.
Right.
Those are just the questions I had, but thank you all very much.
all right.
Thank you, Mr.
Well,
White.
thank you.
Any more, David?
Mr. Hinojosa, do you have any?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Maybe I should have showed up a little later. Just kidding. I've been here till midnight many times, you know.
Don't be back to back.
Now, tough crowd. So anyway, well, thank you. No, I know how for the record. I guess, going back to. No, this is fine.
You got two slides in there, no way from the presentation.
Yeah, so I think, if I recall, let's see. We can work with this for now. So the number at the very top right-hand corner is about $65 million. That is your net revenues. Those are revenues that exceed all of your expenses, operations, debt service and the like. And we have been asked by your staff, what happens if we borrow $250 million? How can we go about doing that? Well, we're not gonna do that this year, all of it. We had thought that we would do it in phases. That you do about $100 million first, and then the balance maybe next year or the year later. So with that, today's debt service is on the far left, along with where it says senior lien debt service, plus the existing subordinate lien debt service. So you got about $5.6 million this year, and then you go to $6.2 million. Then in 28, you go up to about $10.5 million, and in 29, you go to about $20.6 million. At last week's meeting, I think I said to you all, before you borrow this type of money, you have to make a conscious decision as a body that oversees this enterprise on whether you want to continue sending some of this net revenues over the general fund, so that that transfer over general fund can continue to assist what operation costs would be funded by property taxes. So that's first and foremost the most important thing. Second, making sure that if you do this bridge system improvements, you gotta have reserves funded, savings account. A lot of the concerns with the rating agencies has been, over the years, is been how the fund balance of the city. And the more reliance you have on this system, which by the way, is still perceived as a system that is exposed to circumstances that normally you don't see in other cities across the country. You're an international city, you're right in the middle of where everything is happening. You got, in the past, you've had peso devaluations and things of that nature. The bridge system is right at the front line. So the people of New York see this as an added risk. Thus, the coverage needs to be a little higher than the norm on this debt. And then as you go about selling these bonds, then what is the ideal coverage? So to us, we don't have necessarily a number that we're recommending. The greater the number, the greater the coverage, the less of a risk. And they have rating criterias at Moody's, Standard & Poor's that you have to meet. Once you meet those criterias, then they'll assign you an opinion. Notwithstanding the fact that whatever that opinion they give you on this system, because of your reliance from the general fund on this system, whatever we do here is going to affect your property tax supported debt, which is right now at AA2. The highest is AAA, then AA1, and then AA2. The difference between a AA credit and an A, which is what this system is, and the cost of borrowing is about 25 basis points. At least 25 basis points. So think of, if you come to the market with $100 million and you're gonna pay 25 basis points, it's gonna be about $250,000 each year for 20 years or 30 years. So what you want to do is preserve your ratings so you can get the best cost of borrowing. And two, the higher the rating, the more of an optimal opportunity you're gonna have in case something happens with cost overruns or unforeseen circumstances during construction of this project. We've been told that the project is gonna cost about $240 million. Well, we haven't gone out for bids. We're involved in many projects across Texas, and I can tell you that bids today are coming higher than originally estimated. I don't know if that's gonna be the case here, but at the end of the day, the rating agencies, unlike when you borrow debt with property tax supported debt, they expect you to cover that debt payment with some surpluses. That's what the coverage is. If we were selling COs, if we were selling general obligation bonds, you don't need that coverage. So the question has been, why should I lend you the money, by them, not by this group behind me, but by the entities, why should I lend you the money if you're not willing to raise those rates and give us that coverage? The greater the coverage, the less the lender has to, the lender is the purchaser of the bonds, by the way. The lender has to be worried about whether you can pay him back or not. The fundamental considerations of a loan to a city or a county or a school district is your willingness and ability to pay. You know, it's being said, well, this is a $10 million payment. Your budget is $1 billion. Mr. Nev pointed out, well, within that $1 billion, about 280 thereabouts is general fund, maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more. When you ask us, what capacity do we have to borrow to do the projects you want to address at your particular districts or across the city, we bring in the property tax rate, use your property tax values, use your existing amortization schedule, so you have an existing loans, and add what you want to fund so that you don't bust through that tax rate that you've always limited us in the past. Well, this $10 million, if used, may be very likely be used from having to put money in the capital improvement fund. The capital improvement fund is a fund that you use to pay cash for capital improvements. Well, if you don't put that cash in that fund, then you're gonna have to go borrow the money, because you can only fund projects for capital projects 3 ways. You use property taxes, current taxes, sales taxes. What funds the general fund? You work on the efficiency of operational costs, and you create more profit in the general fund. Whatever profit you generate, you can go pay with from capital fund. You can say, whatever excess we have, we put in the capital fund. Now let's go spend it. We do that in arrears if you wanted to. But likely, you won't create a profit because general fund expenses continue to push and take away from revenues. So at the end of the day, you have to borrow the money. Where else is it going to come from? Many times you've asked me, where are we in comparison to other cities? I think I shared that with you last week. You're not an outlier. You're a very efficient city for many, many years. Not 2 years, not 5, 10, 15. At least we've been a AA credit. You don't have to be a AA credit. If you want to sacrifice it, let's be more aggressive. We don't have to go borrow the debt at 25 years. We can borrow 20. We can lower our standards of coverages. Pass some of that risk over to the lender. You can make harder decisions if you want to. It is your call. Our job is to come and tell you the easiest thing for you to do or for us to give you is what we think is best. But at the end of the day, what makes finance, unfortunately, not that easy in our business is that you get the public involved. What did I say at the last week's meeting? This is your business. Very few cities across Texas have the benefit of an enterprise that year after year continues to provide very strong results, financial results, for your benefit. You own, forefathers decided to get into this business of running the bridge. I was asking Ms. Hinojosa what has been the traffic crossings, commercial traffic crossings, over the last, I guess it's 22, the last 5 years. And they've gone up. You mentioned, Mayor, if we do this rate increase, how is the market going to be affected? You made a comment, somebody asked a question about how do you set your rates? The market dictates. I don't think this staff nor ourselves have said to you, whatever you do today or in the next 2 weeks, or a month, or a year from now, it's not set in stone. You can always take those back if you've exceeded those expectations or revenues. But the fact of the matter is that you have to demonstrate your willingness to pay back that loan. There are no more grants being given out there for bridges. We tried literally everything that we can.
Yes, you got a question here.
No, and I'm not sure if you've already answered, you answered it last week for me, but it's gonna take a little bit more. Only because, I'll get you one.
I got this allergies, and I took too much of it.
I think you expended all your energy with David already.
No.
There was a very interesting question by Mr. Maldonado earlier about how we can prolong some of our projects and raise that $10 million first. And I think that's a viable question as to why can't we do that? In your opinion, can you answer that?
Sure, excellent question. When you sell revenue bonds, you're expected to raise them before you borrow the money. You gotta show me, thank you, appreciate it. You gotta show us, this is the lender, I'm just your advocate, I'm your advisor. You gotta show us that you're willing to generate those $10 million in advance of you having to make the payment. So if you set the rates today and they become effective July 1st, if not for the fact that your payments today are $5.6 million, you wouldn't be able to borrow the $100 million. Now, the $100 million is not going to cost you $10 million. The $100 million loan is the third column from left to right on the screen. It's about $6.7 million. Very likely, if everything remains the same, interest rates may be lower. We'll see. But notwithstanding all of that, that $6.7 million is not coming until 28. So what we're trying to do is establish to the lender to meet credit criteria considerations. We're doing this in advance of us being required to make the payment. Show me. So when you go over and say, well, let's play with the general fund or whatever fund. Let's make sure the utilities contribute to the CIF. Let's come up with a $10 million payment so we can have it there in advance of the payment. Well, these lenders, when you go borrow the money, they're not expecting other enterprises to help you for it. They're expecting the bridge system to be self-reliant and self-sustainable. They're going to give you a rating on system operations, not on not on water and sewer, not on landfill or solid waste or environmental services, whatever we call it, or COs. This has to do only for bridge. So you have to get ahead. In fact, the bond revenue ordinance, when issued, will say you must demonstrate you have coverages of your debt service, actually 1.25 times, I think, 1.25 times or 1.5 times. Well, if you say no to the rate increases, you can go borrow that money and pay $6.7 million. It will be at the expense of what? Capital Improvement Fund account or transfers to the general fund. So what is the rating agency going to say? Oh, we got them rated a AA too. A little bit more pressure on how they're going to be able to keep interest rate or property taxes at that level. Sorry for the long answer, sir.
Well, the second part to that would be, and I think David alluded to it a little bit earlier, on the, do we have to finance the whole amount or can we do partial financing? The plus or minuses are gonna be at the end, it's gonna end up where it's gonna be. I think that if we self-finance this project, it's gonna be detrimental to any future projects that we have in mind. Because, I mean, in the case that, okay, our capacity is 244 million, and we self-finance 100, does that open up the door for another 100 million for something else later on?
I mean, think about why
would you want to do that?
Why are you going to do that? Put yourself in an additional box, and just think about why you're even doing this. Why are we doing these improvements if not for the fact that we're projecting growth in crossings. So if you're projecting growth in crossings, what is gonna do to your current infrastructure? You would think it's gonna add more pressure to your infrastructure. Okay, how are you gonna fund for that infrastructure? So if you're borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, doing this and doing that, at the end of the day, if we're projecting to doubling up traffic, not from one year to the next, probably 7 years from now, some of us may still be here, who knows? But anyway, 7 or 8 years from now, if that crossing is doubled, what's it gonna do to property values? It was mentioned earlier, sales tax revenues. Okay, at the end of the day, where's the money gonna come from to keep those assets you have of infrastructure repaired? I also mentioned to you last week that this is your business. You should treat it as your business. The business has become a golden goose. And you're the only ones that can touch it. But let me put it to you another way. If you don't raise the rates, if you don't raise the revenues, and you put pressure on capital improvement fund or the general fund, then who's gonna be bearing the burden of having to generate revenues for those two funds? Property taxes or sales taxes. So let's not mix it up. You got a business that has been good to you, and if not for that business, you wouldn't actually generate the revenues that you generate, that if not for those revenues, you would have to have property taxes higher by 20 cents. Who would that hurt if you had property taxes higher by 20 cents? Everyone. So this is our business. Okay, is it too much of a burden? It's been shared with you, we just wanna know. Okay, let's do this. Let's demonstrate the rating agencies, the lender, who happen to be a pain in the rear. Let's rate what they want. And then if we exceed, I'm sure this time next year, or whenever that, you can set in the ordinance, we wanna have this reviewed quarterly, we wanna have this reviewed annually. Come back. How are we doing with coverages? The most important thing is whatever you do, be fully educated. Don't hold back. And this is what we're trying to do. We're not trying to pass anything. Mr. Neb and his staff, who spend most of the time on this, they just asked us to put this amortization schedules together for them. But there's no pressure. You can actually put little bells and whistles around the ordinance to say, I want you to come to me and show me how we're doing. But at the end of the day, the lender opiner, the S&Ps and Moody's, expect you to step in first.
All right. Do you have any questions?
One more that was asked earlier.
All right.
If, and you can verify that, Mr. Neb, if out of the $44 million that's being, out of the, $88 million that is being, that comes in revenue, $44 million goes to the general fund, and the actual cost of operating the bridge is $21 or $22 million. The excess fund that is there, the other $22 million, what part of, does that, what's the role of that money? If in fact that's true. If $44 million stays as the bridge revenue fund, and $21 or $22 million is the actual operational cost of that, what role does that extra $22 million take into consideration?
Is this chart that we're seeing with the proposed rate increase each year, or is this as is projections each year?
This is just a,
Increase in it, right, because it's got the projections out there?
It has the projections in it.
So that would be if we passed
If
what
it
was
passes.
proposed today.
Okay. Thank you.
Was that your question? All right, thank you.
Honorable Mayor Jesus Esparza with the Budget Department. To answer that question is, the operating cost of bridge is about 32 million. So 43 is what we currently have in our original budget that comes in. It's budgeted to come in. That will only come in if we meet the expectations of the revenues. The 32 million is what the bridge keeps for its operations. Then it has its debt service payments. The difference, the other 10 million is for debt service payments. There's money that goes into their capital improvements fund, which they do internal improvements through cash. And the rest, any balances that go in there, go into our CIF, our capital improvements fund, to also pay for projects with cash.
Within the bounds of, aside from this bridge expansion?
Yes.
Any projects that need to be done within the bridge system right now, that part of that amount goes into another fund that finances that part?
Yes, only specifically only for bridge, and that would be improvements for the way in motions. It would be like, currently we just finished remodeling the World Trade, all the entrance as you come in, all that was done with in-house money out of the construction.
Okay, so we're balancing with in-house financing, and now we're currently seeking out external financing for this, I mean, obviously bigger project. And this is a proposal that we have before us.
Correct, and I don't know if they can put the screen that we have in the computer right now. That one, yes, that one. So for example, in the current budget, the 25-26, we have that 32 million, that's the operations. 5.6 is the debt service. 6.4, so it's going to CIF. 1.1 is that monies that we're increasing our fund balance that we talked about. We have about $3.5, almost $4 million in fund balance. We want to continue increasing that balance. And then the transfer out that goes to general fund of 43. And then as we project moving forward, that is the additional money. There's a increased projector for the maintenance and operation. The debt service payments move from 5.6 towards the end of the projected year, which is 20 million. And we have the CAF that will also progressively increase so we can do more projects in-house, and the increases in the fund balance. On year 2 is where we have one of the bigger costs where we're now.
So to be clear, this extra fund balance that you're saving is not necessarily, this is not the only project that's going on. The $244 million project is not the only thing that's going to go on here. That fund balance that you have right now, right there, is to in-house finance whatever CIP projects you have going on within the bridge system.
That's the CIF.
Yeah, CIF.
Then the fund balance is the savings account of the enterprise system. You say, why? Why is it that we need to have more of a savings account? They continue to tell us, you're now spending not only money in running the system, but you're actually transferring from the system out to the general fund. So you need to have, if you recall, we have 25% of fund balance in the general fund. They want us to have 25% of bridge fund operational expenses and transfers out to be counted as.
Right.
As if they were operational expenses.
Right.
Because the cities, let's say that you have a flood, and let's say that one of the bridges collapses. Well, you're gonna have to go fix it as quickly as you can.
Correct.
That's what CIF is for. That's what fund balance is for. Or are you gonna expect the insurance company to come and pay you for that? They're not gonna pay you immediately. FEMA, let's not get there. At the end of the day, they're treating you as a system, as a business that belongs to you, and you have to take care of it. And in many people's eyes, and I'm the first one to tell you, it seems like you put in a lot of money. We're putting the money for a rainy day. That's what we do with the general fund. And that increase in fund balance is for the enterprise fund balance, not for the CIF,
right,
nor the general fund balance.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir. Okay. All right.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
Mr. Reynoso, thank you so much for coming down. We really do appreciate it. It's such a dense subject, and
Sure.
you've clarified a lot. And again, appreciate your expertise in guiding us and really keeping the financial interest of the city foremost, because this is one department, an incredibly important department, but at the end of the day, we want our ability to do these financial instruments to be in the best interest of the entire city across all of our departments. And I think you do that very well. You try to keep us balanced.
Well, we're a team, and I'm really honor to be with all of you and your staff. This is not easy, and I know you're the one that has to make those decisions. And hopefully, it gives you a peace of mind that you will verse on the matter. That's what we want you to be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So now moving on to number two, discussion related to possible increase, no, that was number two. To number three, sorry.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem, as we get into the insurance item, which is item number 3, I wanted just to lay out some thoughts. Mr. Neb had staff work together to arrive at this. I just wanted to remind council that the first time we came to council with some insurance discussions was on March 25th, where we laid out some of the possible plans associated with these changes. And when we came forward on March 25th, looking at the fund and its entirety, the initial impact would have been a 32.5% increase on both the city side and the employee side, and to make it to where we were balanced without making any changes in the plan. And obviously, that's not something that we would like to see for our employees or for the city. And so another proposal was put on the table for a 24% increase with some changes in the plan structures. And that also was not there. So we're going to give you some historical information that goes back to then, and to bring you about 6 options with the different discussions that we've heard from the council as to where they would think that we might be able to end up. So staff is prepared to share that with you. And as I said in my opening statements at the last time that we discussed this, that, you know, we want to make the impact as minimal as possible for all the employees. And we also want to make the impact as minimal as possible for the city. But more than anything, for the retirees that are in a fixed budget that don't get cost of living increases, they're stuck at what their annuities are allowing them to have. And so staff is ready to give you a presentation with some options addressing the points that a lot of you all shared with us that you'd like to see where we end up today. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Chief. And thank you, staff. Let me just read the item for the record. Discussion and possible action related to possible proposal, capital improvement projects, and identification of city council priorities to inform development of the city's capital improvement program, including pre-budgeting fiscal planning, revenue projections, payroll projections, health and benefits insurance trends, and rate proposals, and any related matters.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and members of council. For the record, my name is Carolina Thurkettle. I'm from the Human Resources Department. And thank you, Chief, for the information that you provided over. With me today, we do have our consultants from Gallagher, Natalie Haskett and Ashley Gaspard. We also have our brokers with us today from Laurel Insurance, Tina Cerda, Blas Martinez, and Robert Laurel. And we also have a representative from our Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas, Melena James, in the audience as well. For any questions that may arise, that they may be able to provide some clarification over to you all.
Sure, thank you. Before proceeding, I want to recognize Councilmember Perez as well for the records and for the presentation.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Today's presentation is a follow-up to the direction provided during the May 21st budget workshop regarding the fiscal year 26-27 health insurance budget. The purpose for this discussion is to present additional design and contribution options to council for council's consideration. These options are intended to help address the projected health insurance fund deficit while maintaining access to medical coverage for our employees, retirees, and their families. On the May 21st budget workshop, council directed staff to bring back additional options for consideration. Specifically, council requested similar HMO health plan scenarios comparable to the options that were provided during the May 21st meeting, as well as alternatives that would include both HMO health plan and a PPO health plan. Today's presentation responds to the direction and provides additional scenarios for council's review. Before we review these options, I do want to clarify that our high deductible health plan is still a PPO plan. What this means is that even under options where other plan designs may change, the high deductible health plan continues to be a PPO provider network. Employees enrolled in this plan would still have broader provider flexibility, including in-network and out-of-network options and access. And access is not only limited to Texas.
Sure, yes, ma'am.
Is this a different high deductible health plan than the one that's been presented before? Because the high deductible plan was always presented as an HMO plan.
It's the same. It's always been a PPO plan.
But it's always been put under HMO category. In the last slides, I thought it was under HMO.
No, it's always been a PPO plan.
Okay.
Yes, for clarification, it has always been a PPO plan. Okay. On this slide, what we provided is we provided you a summary of all the proposals that we've presented to date. As you see, back in March of 25th of this year, we provided two different options. In May of 21st, which is about 2 weeks ago, we provided two additional plan options for that was presented to council. The table also shows the estimated financial impact for each option, including whether the option resulted in either a remaining deficit or a projected surplus. The key takeaway is that the additional options provided to council with different approaches range from maintaining plan offerings with increased cost sharing, creating HMO-focused scenarios, and applying a contribution spread between HMO and PPO options. What we're going to be discussing in today's presentation are going to be options 5 and options 6, with descriptions in regards to those two plan options.
Sure.
Do you have all the plans in here?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. On this slide, we included a plan design, which is in option 5, that has additional contribution increases. This plan design provides an estimated cost savings of $5.8 million, with the options of having also a contribution of either a 10% employee and city contribution. With this design, it still provides a deficit of a $4.4 million deficit. The next is the same design, but with a 15% contribution, would provide a deficit of $2.5 million. And so on the next slide, what we provided is the illustration of this plan option. What you see in this presentation here is what would actually change within those plan designs. So this plan would continue to keep the high deductible health plan, which will increase based on the minimum IRS requirements. And in this plan, it would convert the current PPO plan to an HMO plan, okay? And it provides a breakdown of what would change from the current structure of that PPO plan if it were to be converted into an HMO plan, and what the new deductible, co-insurance, emergency room costs, the prescription costs, and obviously being that it would be at HMO, it would not have the coverage for out-of-network providing under this. The other thing that this plan option provides is it would also convert the current retiree plan from a PPO plan to an HMO plan. So it provides that illustration of how this plan structure would look in comparison to the way the structure is currently built. The next option that we provide is a plan design that has multiple contributing options aligned. Within this plan itself, the 4 different options that it has is it provides a plan design change that has an estimated increase, an estimated savings, thank you so much, of the 7.3, I'm so sorry, 7.3, along with having a 10% contribution, it would provide a deficit of 1.5. So it does provide a slightly lesser deficit in this plan design with a 10% contribution. Now, taking into the fact this same design that still keeps all our plans the way they are, keeping a high deductible plan, a HMO plan, and our current PPO plan for active employees, and also keeping our retiree plan as a PPO plan. If we were to do a 10% contribution and then increasing the contribution spread between the HMO plan and the PPO plan, it provides a much lesser deficit of only $871,000 estimated. If we were to do a 15% contribution with that plan design, it does provide a surplus of $495,000. Or if we were to do a 15% contribution, along with having that contribution spread, it gives us an even bigger surplus of $1.1 million. So for this plan option, again, as I mentioned, it would keep the same plans as employees currently are used to having one high deductible plan, having one HMO plan, a PPO plan, and then keeping the retiree plan as a PPO option. This plan design does provide, again, a cost savings, estimated cost savings of $7.3 million to help offset the deficit that we have of 12.6, 12.4. Thank you for that. Any questions so far on the plan design options? The next slide, what we provided is the contribution increases. I know that we had previously, or I had already provided what the biweekly amounts would be if we were to do a 10% contribution increase for all our plans, from the high deductible to our HMO to our PPO plan, and also incorporating that same 10% into our retiree plans. If we were to do a 15% contribution, this provides that summary of what the biweekly rates would be for our active employees, with having a 50% contribution increase to that to the plan design, with the plan design. Now in this slide, what we did is we also provided the scenario if we were to do a 10% contribution, but create that 25% spread from the HMO plan to the PPO plan, and how much that difference would make in regards to that higher premium amount that employees would have to share along with the city. By doing this plan, or doing this proposal, we would discontinue the phase-in of the 1303 for the PPO plan as we have in place, because now that spread would have that higher amount between those two plans itself.
Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Kettle, on the 25% spread to HMO, you still have it listed as a 10% rate, so we shouldn't look at that 10%, right? You're increasing the rates for the PPO to create the difference between the HMO rate and the PPO rate?
No, so you still have to increase the contributions to 10%. It's now that where the HMO falls, there's now a 25% spread from the beginning rate of the PPO plan. Right now, the spreads between the HMO and the PPO, it's 12.5. So this is doubling that spread, so that you have a higher bandwidth between the two. It creates a more industry standard spread between those two plans. Typically, industry standards, and I'll have the consultant correct me if I'm wrong, there should be a bigger spread between each plan, so that way you have a difference based on each plan themselves.
And I can appreciate that, because we do need to incentivize these plans correctly.
Correct.
But the PPO then, though, is going up much more than 10%, right? The change is $43 on a current is $53.
Right now, currently it's 53. This would bring it up to 96.51 per pay period.
Okay.
Yes. So on a 10% contribution increase with that 25% spread.
Okay, so that's the part I don't understand.
But
how to
Mayor-
you- I mean, I
Mayor-
get how you're getting there, but it's not you're including the 10% rate plus the 25% rate?
Ma'am,
Yeah, go ahead, Council.
so, ma'am, can you put the chart back on, please?
Oh, it should say 25. Okay, yeah.
Who's there?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Councilmember.
So are we getting, you're saying from HMO to PPO, we're getting, that's a 25% difference
Spread between the two plans.
between
Correct.
each of them?
Correct.
So, okay, I get you. So between these two.
And the correction is that at the very top, it does say 10% up here, but it would be a 25.
25%.
Yes, yes.
I don't know, I think 43 of 53 is more, but that's fine. I understand that the rate, that you're trying to spread them out, so we incentivize them more according to industry standard, as you said.
Correct. So I believe that the conversations that we had at the last meeting is, if individuals feel that the PPO plan is the best plan for their medical needs, then it comes with a certain price tag with that. Because you get to utilize not only the in-network, but you can also do out-of-network versus an
It's an
HMO.
additional benefit of the plan, and then we're asking that it be charged accordingly.
That is correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, oh, I agree.
Yes.
Thank you.
On the next slide, this is the same.
I'm sorry,
No, no,
Mayor,
no.
Pro Tem, ma'am.
Yes.
Can you go back to the previous slide, please? We were talking about prescription medicine.
Sure. On this one right here?
That one right there, yes. On specifically on the copay for the generic preferred and the non-preferred. So, and the reason I'm asking because a lot of our people that are insured with the city of Laredo are diabetics. And I know a lot of them are on Ozempic, Mounjaro, whatever else, those GLP-1s are called now, or all the other brands that they have now. For a person that's diagnosed with diabetes, type 2, 1, whatever it is, I don't really know the difference. Well, no, type 1 injects, correct? No.
Well, I
Is
mean,
that-
if
if
you're
any-
talking about insulin or.
Insulin, right,
Insulin,
correct,
okay.
right. And type 2 does not need to inject insulin, correct? Is that kind of, I think, well, either way. When they're prescribed these GLP-1s and you're looking at those rates, when it was a $40 copay, now it's up to a maximum of $250. So these patients for these GLP-1s that are being prescribed by their doctors, is that what they're gonna need to be paying now on a monthly basis? $250 versus $40 they were paying before?
Since those, typically the GLP-1s do range about $1,000 per a 30-day supply.
month? Okay.
Per month, yes. It would be $250 when you go with a, because they are considered a preferred medication.
Okay.
However, they are allowed to do mail order, and the mail order would have the same copay amounts, but instead of paying $25 per month, they'll be paying $250 per month. It would be $250 for a 90-day supplies for 3 months.
For the quarter of the year?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
That's
thank you.
gonna be that difference. Now, on some medications that don't go beyond that $250, so the most they'll pay is $250 on a preferred or a non-preferred medication. 25% of that amount, but not to exceed $250 per prescription. Now, once an individual reaches their out-of-pocket expense, because the most that they'll be spending in that calendar year is the out-of-pocket expense that includes for medical and prescription.
So it'd be the $250?
No, the out-of-pocket expense, if you look up at the very, close to the top, what's in black, for an
Okay.
individual, the most that
Right.
they ever pay out-of-pocket, whether it's for medical, prescription, or a combination, is the $8,150 out-of-pocket.
Out of pocket,
Out-of-pocket, correct.
okay, all right, thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, thank you for the information, and we're continuing to try to figure out what the best option is, I guess, from all of our options. Is there a way to get a spreadsheet that has, if you can go back to the slide that was right here. So all these black, I guess, line items, are the same across all the plans, right? So is there a way to give us a spreadsheet with all these line items and then have a column for all the different plans, so we can literally compare them side by side
side.
instead of sheet by sheet?
Yes, definitely.
That way, I think it would be a little bit easier to compare them. I mean, otherwise we can take them and we can lay them out and look at them, but, I would like to see what the employees think about these options, because this is gonna affect them as well. Has anybody reached out or gotten any feedback from any of these plans from the employees, or are you looking to see what direction we're gonna go with today, and then are we gonna ask employees, or is there a way to ask the employees for their feedback so we can make a decision on the next council meeting?
We were not advised to get feedback from our employees. We were trying to bring these proposals over to you all as the council body, so that you all would be able to make a decision, since we are getting close to our benefit enrollment, that it's literally about 60 days away, more or less, before we kick off our benefit enrollment. We do need to have an approved.
By July, right?
By the end of July, we start our benefit enrollment, but we have background work that we still need to do in preparation with our systems in place, so that when employees.
Well, this is a big decision, and we have a lot of options, and I think we need to sit down and actually go through this, and the format that we're in right now is more to get feedback from you all, and it's not really. I mean, I just don't feel comfortable making a decision right now based on the information right now, the way it is. I would like to get some feedback, because at the end of the day, the employees are not gonna be happy no matter what we pick. They're gonna be upset no matter what. And it is a little upsetting that that's the climate that we're in right now. It's just that there's just so many different changes and factors, and depending on what plan you get, your out-of-pocket's gonna be more. And it seems like the families are taking the biggest hit here, which is a little scary, because we do have a high incident of uninsured children in our community, and I would hate that we would end up increasing the amount of uninsured children or something like that, because people can't afford these increases, and I don't know if that's what's gonna end up happening even with our employees. So, I think that if there's is there any other information that we need to dissect? Is this basically it, all that we have?
For the additional options, these are the two additional options, based upon all the other options that we had already brought forward to you all, from the last two other, meetings that we had. That provides the different proposals, including the contribution amounts of how much each employee would be needing to pay into each. Correct.
Well, I would like to make a motion to request, and I don't wanna make you all do more work, and it's not that I'm trying to delay a decision or anything. I just honestly don't know which one of these is the best one to pick. I need to review the first four, comparing to this new ones, and I think it would be helpful to see it in a side-by-side manner, and just kind of, if we can get it in a table format where it's more side-by-side. I don't know how long it would take to put something like that together. Is that something that can be done fairly quickly, so we can, I would feel more comfortable making this decision at the next council meeting in a week and a half, or however long to the next one?
And Mayor Pro Tem, if I may help with some of the logistics as well too, because we talked about the scheduling and the timing and everything. We will put together what we can get to you. I would recommend putting it onto this next council meeting to have a further conversation with it, because we have been talking about the schedule into July. And right now, we have only one meeting in July. It's the third Monday, and there has been conversation about trying to drop that to the fourth Monday rather than the third, in order to allow for, we have to present a budget in that week as well too. So we're trying to work out that schedule. So if it's acceptable, you all take the week for this. We'll get you the additional detail before the council meeting.
Well, if we can have, if I may.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
If we can have it like quickly, that way
Yes.
we can assess it. You know, I don't know, maybe my colleagues don't need it. I just feel like I would be a little.
We'll put
it would be more
together as
comfortable for
quickly
me
as I
to see it
can. Yes,
quicker,
ma'am.
on an easier format. And then, definitely put it on the council meeting agenda so we can make a final decision.
Wonderful, and then I will let you all know about this July schedule, because we are trying to work out the little pieces on that right now.
But either way, we would make a decision in a
Second
week.
discussion, Mayor, if I may.
Councilmember Cigarroa has a quick.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, yes, ma'am.
So, you on page, I think it's A2, I don't know, it's farther along. You do talk about the active employees and retirees and how they're being impacted.
In regards to the out-of-pocket?
Exactly. This is, because that's where I think a lot of the projected savings are coming from, at least from what I've understand in this process, that is going to change no matter what, right? Those out-of-pocket expenses and the deductibles are changing because of the climate that we're in.
That is correct.
And it doesn't seem as if we can make up this debt without having a greater deductible and a greater out-of-pocket. But that was one of the most concerning things when I was reviewing this, and it does seem as if, at least understanding that it is not everyone that is going to be impacted. Not that you want anybody to carry such high deductibles, but that seems to be the insurance climate that we are currently in. And so I appreciate the fact that you've talked about it, especially with the retirees, because their prices are already higher simply because of the category that they're in. Approximately 95% incurred less than $3,000 in out-of-pocket expenses, and 99.5% incurred less than $5,000 in out-of-pocket expenses. And they would seem, as you've laid out, right, those are the ones with significant healthcare needs, where we would be looking to see how we would be impacted by them. And
Yeah, because what you need to realize, we are a pool, so it's not based on an individual, it's based on the whole group itself.
Right.
Which is the pool.
So I want to thank you for that information, because it does, I guess, give it a little bit of context, simply because we are left with undesirable choices. But that is true of everyone right now who's dealing with renewing health insurance prices, and I think any business is seeing this as well. We just live in that climate until this country decides to do something else about health insurance.
Thank you.
So thank you for the additional information.
Mayor Pro Tem, is there anything specifically that you would like to see as we put the final product together? Because we, laid out 6 plans and kind of like.
I think just giving back to us just a little more detail on what the difference is gonna be, more than anything else, what it is now to what it's going to be. Okay. I think that'd be best. But Mayor, I have another question besides.
One page,
Yeah, just not too small print and getting old and I can't see very well, but, yeah.
Yeah, a lengthy report.
Right, exactly.
And
My question was, or my concern is, and industry, I guess Blue Cross Blue Shield, do you all see, or maybe you can answer it for me, do you see our employees dropping these plans because of the price they've gotten to? A lot of our employees are making $12 to $15, $16 an hour, and it's very difficult for them to make ends meet now. These increases coming up by 35, 45%, because that's what I'm calculating, especially with one of them I just saw there. It's not a 25% increase. You're talking 40, 45% increase on some of these plans. Do you see them dropping and going with Obamacare or other types of insurances? And that's a concern for me, because the less people we have in our pool, the more and more expensive it's going to get for us, for the employees that are left on there. And I just want to see, obviously it's a trend that medical insurance is going up every year, and I see that happening. But to employees barely making ends meet, it's very difficult. And are they going to even qualify to be getting Obamacare or anything else like that they'd be able to apply for? I don't know much about it.
We have not seen a huge number of employees opting out of our insurance, if that's to answer that question of yours.
But you're seeing this enormous increase again, and we're seeing it on a yearly basis. Right. And it's gotten to a point where an employee making even $15, $16 an hour, it's very difficult to afford these plans, specifically when it's for the family. They're going to make half the check. It's all going to medical insurance.
Yeah, and I believe in one of our slides, if you're referring to individuals that are at the lower end of the pay grade, not a lot of them have the family plan. They usually only have the insurance for themselves.
Individually.
Individually, correct. And we did provide that information in all our presentations. We continue to keep that information there because I know that is one of the concerns, like how is it affecting those individuals in the lower wage schedule?
Right.
But right now, the amount is about like 10 employees at most that are actually have a family
A
plan.
family plan.
The rest have
Well, the
employee-
individual ones are what I was actually speaking about, because you have them at $54, it's going up to $98, I think I saw.
Yeah, and what I have on.
That's an enormous increase.
And I have on the screen a benchmark that was provided to us by our broker. If they were to go privately and purchase the same plan right now that we have, like our PPO plan.
As a PPO plan, okay.
Well, they don't offer the PPO plan in the private sector, it's HMO.
It's an HMO, okay.
Correct. And so the least expensive one that you may be able to find right now would cost them approximately take it back, $672.48 per month.
This is a person or for the family?
And this is for employee only,
Employee only.
for a
672.
45-year-old or below. Yeah, 45-year-old or below, $672.48 per month.
So we as a pool are still way cheaper than would it be if they were to get out and get their own insurance then?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, I believe Councilmember,
I know there was a motion by Councilmember Perez to bring it back by the fifth, by the next council meeting, but at the same time, can I just amend it and add it? If you can, just management, see if they can bring back comparisons to the local government bodies, which is LISD, UISD, and the county, so we can, compare and see those numbers, and bring it back on the next council meeting.
We'll be ready.
first accepted with the amendment. Go ahead, Councilmember Perez.
Alright, so going back to A2, talking about how approximately 95% of the retirees incurred less than $3,000 in out-of-pocket, and 99.5% incurred less than $5,000 in out-of-pocket. Just looking at the retiree plan, I'm curious, how was that number calculated? Because out-of-pocket max right now is $2,500 to $5,000. So how is it that the majority are around $3,000? And the $5,000, is that because they maxed out at $5,000? Because I'm looking at the new max and it's gonna go to 10. So now those that were max out of pocket 5, how many of those are gonna go max out of pocket 10? Because that's a 50% increase right there.
It could be due to family or out of network,
or double actually,
expenses that were made in regards to those. So if you look at A4, Appendix 4, it provides the out-of-pocket expense breakdown chart and the amount of claimants based on the amount bandwidth between, from under $100 all the way up to the range of 6,001 all the way to 7,000.
Okay, hold on. Let me stop you there. Out of pocket max, 181,000 from the 2001 to 2,500 range. Does that mean that there's 77 claimants that maxed out at 2,500? And then the plan picked up the other 181,000? Is that what that means? What does that column mean right there?
Blue Cross. I'm trying to see if they can name the place.
But isn't this employee data, or is this comes from Blue Cross?
It's employee data that's coming from Blue Cross based on the claims.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yes, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Blas Martinez from Laredo Insurance for the record. The form that we're looking up here, this shows you the number of members. So at the very bottom, we'll see we have 5,086 members. If we look at all the
Where does
claimants.
it say that? Where does it say that?
So you're looking at out-of-pocket for retired, 873 members.
Okay.
Right, there at the bottom.
Right.
Out of those 873, 753 of those had expenses of $2,000 or less. And it's broken down there by category. So we had 354 that spent less than $100 in the year 2025. We had 87 that spent between 101 to 2,000. Well, if you total all of those up, again, we have 753 out of the 873 that spent less than $2,000 on their medical
No, I
plan.
understand that lumped stat, but what I'm talking about is this individual line item right here, exactly that one line item in particular, 2001 to 2,500, because what this chart doesn't show is how many of these are on what plan are they on? Because if you're paying 2,500 out of pocket, right, and you're on the retiree individual, right, your out-of-pocket max is 2,500, right? So how many of these are on the out-of-pocket max for individual versus family? Because if you're at a family plan and your out-of-pocket max is 2,500, but your limit is 5,000, then you're not maxing out your plan, right? Because you have a family plan, you've maxed out at 2,500, but you're up to 5,000, versus the individual plan of a $2,500 max, and then now the plan kicks in and picks up the rest. If we double that for the retirees from 2,500 to 8, is this number now going to be that they're paying 8,000 out of pocket? How many of these are going to go from the 2,500 that they're currently paying to now 8,000 a year versus 5,000 a year for family and now 16,000? Because those are like very big jumps.
That's a very great question. Tina set it up for the record with Laudel Insurance. So to clarify something about the way the out-of-pocket maximum works, there's the out-of-pocket maximum per individual and then a maximum per family. So I'll pick on my family if there's 5 of us. Well, now there's 4 of us on the plan. But if one meets the out-of-pocket maximum, then they've met the out-of-pocket maximum for themselves, but it counts towards the family out-of-pocket maximum. So the others don't necessarily have to meet the same out-of-pocket maximum. They have, whatever they incur counts towards that total family out-of-pocket. So I know it's a little bit confusing, but per individual, there is an out-of-pocket maximum protection and then a family protection. So what is the out-of-pocket? There's only one retiree option, the GFR1 plan. And the out-of-pocket maximum is $2,500 per individual or $5,000 per family. So again, picking on my family, my husband's retired, so we would be on, if he had retired from the city of Laredo, we'd be on the retiree plan. If I meet my out-of-pocket maximum of $2,500, the other 3 members of the family only have to meet another $2,500 before we've met the $5,000 out of pocket. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but that's not what I'm asking though.
Well, what I understood your question to be, and maybe there's a little confusion. You're asking, what does that $181,000 represent? How many of those are individuals and how many are families meeting their out of pocket? And so, first of all, I think
No, that's not what I'm asking. Can we go back real quick? I'm sorry. What I'm saying is that, or what I'm asking it, can we go back to the column there? The one before it?
This one?
Yeah.
This is the retiree.
Yeah, so what I'm asking is, that 2001 to 2,500, right? That is for the individual, is that for the individual plan, or is that for all the plans? Because again, if you have a family plan, right, and let's say nobody in your family gets sick and you really don't have to go to the doctor or whatever, then you're gonna be on that first column. But then in 1 year, somebody in your family gets sick and they have the 2,500, they meet that 2,500, right? Nobody else gets sick. But then you could have, so then that person's gonna be in this column. But let's say another person in the family hits that 2,500 for them, then they're gonna be in that column. And then the family plan from 5,000 and above, they're not gonna pay that, right? So the 5,000 maximum, there's gonna be two people in this column right here of 2001 to 2500, but it's not reflecting how many plans are maxed out at 5,000. And then if you increase that plan to 16,000, then that's gonna totally change the chart, because now instead of two people being in that 2500 column, they're gonna be, now they're gonna be in the 8,000 column, and how many of them are gonna go down to the 8,000 column? You get me? That's why I think there's a large number of them in that column, because that's the max.
So when you hit that, you have many decisions to make. You have to decide, are you going to increase how much you're gonna fund towards the plan? Are you going to ask the employees to pay more? Are you going to increase the spread from the PPO to the HMO? I mean, you've got a lot of moving parts. And then one of the very important moving parts is, are you going to make plan design changes? The beauty of being self-funded is you can do whatever you want.
No.
But you still pay the bill, right? But you're absolutely right. When we raise that out-of-pocket maximum, of those 77 people that hit that out-of-pocket, there may be, some of those 77 people may be impacted, and they may end up paying a higher out-of-pocket, because you're talking about raising the out-of-pocket to $4,000 and $8,000 per family. So yes. I'm sorry, that's the deductible, out-of-pocket maximum, $8,000 and 16. So you're 100% right, Ms. Bettis, that there is a risk that those 77 people are going to find that they have to pay more out-of-pocket in plan year 26, 27.
Yeah, but what I'm not, and I appreciate that, and I'm glad I'm glad I was able to explain what I'm trying to get at there. But my concern is not the risk. My concern is the actual impact. Like, how is this table going to change under each plan? You know what I mean? Can we go back to it real quick? Because
I don't know if we can.
Because right now we have employees that maybe for the past 5 years have demonstrated a pattern of maxing out.
Yeah.
And maybe there's how many people are in their, plan or whatever. We do have the data of how many people. If you have a family plan, one family could have one child, one family could have 10 children, right? And so if their out-of-pocket maximum right now is 5,000, then the rest of that isn't gonna show up in this table. They're gonna be stuck at that 5,000 table. But if we increase the out-of-pocket for the family, well, now they're gonna be in the 16,000 column, and that's right there, that's already three times.
That is going to be a reality. Of those 77 people, I mean, I don't know that we can dive that deeply, because at some juncture, we begin to really dive into individual members.
No, we don't need to go into individuals.
No, but I mean, in order to get to that figure, we have to start diving in really deeply. But I can assure you that of those 77 claimants, which represents 8.8%, so 8% of your population, I would feel really comfortable saying, of your retiree population, I would feel really comfortable saying that at least half of them are going to see that their costs next year are going to go up.
Okay, because just to go back, if you look at the last line item, 7,000 to 8,000 or 8,000 above, nobody's paying more than 8,000 right now.
Right.
Now they're gonna jump to 16, right? If, for example, they were to have been there, except that these tables don't really lend themselves to go that high, that high. So, when you look at the number of family plans, for example, that hit the maximum out of pocket, then the pool picks up the difference, right? How much does it cost the pool? And then how much does it cost? So like for the family plans that hit the 5,000, right? Maybe we can't look individually, but we could say we made up this much of amount of difference because they were capped at 5,000. So we're still not really talking about pool impact when we talk about these rates. We're just focused on the individual or the family or the different plan tiers or the retirees or whatever. But we're not looking at that impact to the pool, right?
So I think what you'd like to know is of this 12% that we're very comfortable saying there will be impacted by this out-of-pocket increase, how much did the city absorb on their behalf? And then of that, how much is gonna now shift
Well,
over to the people?
not just for retirees, I think across the board, because what we're trying to dive down into is the actual financial impact to a family or to an employee by raising that, because we're talking about 15%, 10%, and a 25 spread, and we're talking about these stats, but we're also at the same time raising the maximum out of pocket.
Right.
So it's not just the 10, 15 the majority of our employees never hit the out of pocket. We know that, right? We've gotten that, I think that comes across loud and clear. I just would like to see the impact for families that do have people that are sick and do take advantage and rely on that cap, because if I'm, a single mother or, just trying to provide every day for my child has an illness.
Sure.
I'm comfortable, or I've gotten used to the 5,000 out of pocket. Now I'm gonna pay another 10 or 15 more in my out of pocket for my premium. But let's say my wages have not increased to cover that.
Right.
But not only that, out of pocket, instead of paying 5,000 a year, now I'm paying 8,000. Or I'm paying 8,000, now I'm paying 16. Like, where am I gonna get that other money to pay for that?
And
That's what I would like to see, how that impact looks, because
that's what makes y'all's job so hard, because without a doubt, there's going to be 12, maybe 15% of your employee population that is going to be adversely impacted by the changes that you have to adopt. If you adopt changes, again, you have the option of staying status quo, but you've seen what those costs are. So there is no scenario that I can see here where somebody isn't going to be impacted either by higher out-of-pocket maximums or higher contributions, which are still great, and we do have do we have the rates from the other carrier?
Yeah, go ahead, follow up.
can I just make one more statement? I think that we're comfortable at this point with that we are gonna have to raise the rates, 10, 15. I think as much as I feel like I don't want to do that. I understand that that's gonna have to happen. And I know that changing the maximum deductible amount isn't gonna affect the majority, but my concern is for the ones that really need it. And if we can, let's say we say that the majority of that was from the PPO because they're using an out-of-network doctor or something, and we offer the HMO, then they can still continue to get their coverage for their relative. And it's not gonna cost them their lives, basically, right?
Right.
That's the part that I'm kind of, if we have a better option where it's like, look, the PPO might be too expensive, but the HMO, if you follow these steps, you're still gonna get your coverage, and it's gonna be reduced. But in some of these cases, the HMO's prices are very high, so.
Mayor Pro Tem, thank you. So I think what's being outlined are the very, like you're saying, hard choices. So I do appreciate the fact that you came back with a proposal that's not 35% higher rates, understanding that that's what would be needed to cover the same plan that hasn't changed. Those deductibles haven't changed for 10 years, right? And I think in today's market, we would expect to see these higher deductibles. And then also, you also came back and had much higher, somewhat higher out-of-pocket maxes and deductible maxes, and you came back and scaled those back somewhat. And I don't know how we get out of not having bad choices, right? Health insurance costs are going up. And what we do want to ensure is that every employee has access to health insurance, so that this fund has to stay solvent. We don't have the luxury of absorbing $12 million. Our budget is being shown to not allow us to do that, to keep everything static. And I do think 33% rates increases is dramatic. So understanding the trade-off, if we have that 10%, 15%, 10% maybe is a little bit better, but we have that trade-off and get those higher deductibles, at least it's not impacting as many. I mean, we're trying to be fair about it as well. And I do think to Councilmember Gutierrez's point, that high deductible plan is still free for employees. So it's not an ideal world, but Councilmember Gutierrez, I don't think anyone will be without insurance, at least to cover those risky, catastrophic
events, right. And that was my,
risks that happen in life.
Blas Martinez, that was gonna be my response to Councilman Gutierrez's question. Do we see a lot of people leaving the plan? Well, no, because you have a plan available to them, which is a PPO, high deductible health plan, which is zero. It doesn't cost them anything. Right. So if anybody, I guess, decides, hey, I don't wanna take the traditional PPO, or I don't wanna take the HMO, I'm gonna keep this one that's free for me. The city gives you $750 right now, maybe $500 next year towards that you can also contribute to. And God forbid, in a heart attack, stroke, something major, you still have coverage nationwide, because it's PPO.
Right.
You need to go to, out-of-state coverage, you have that for free.
And I think that is such a valuable plan, it's such a valuable benefit that we provide to employees, because those catastrophic illnesses or events, traumatic events, happen with you. You just do not expect them ever in your life. But then try to go to the hospital and have easily $150,000, $250,000, $1 million from something that you did not plan, you took no risk in, but something happened to you, and you will either yourself or your family will be put into debt, and with bankruptcies happening all over the country. So the fact that the city does provide that is incredibly important.
And if I may, on that particular plan, your maximum exposure is $3,300 right now. The IRS has changed the rules for next year, $3,400. So if you do have a $1 million debt because of a stage 4 diagnosis or premature baby or something, your exposure, your maximum exposure is $3,400 for 2020.
And because there's also employees that are gonna use more our wellness clinic as well.
The wellness clinic is available for, colds, flus, allergies, that kind of stuff, but what we're talking about is, the major stuff.
Yeah.
Catastrophic.
But it bridges, right? It works in concert. So your minor things can be taken care of at the wellness clinic, and traumatic can go, you have coverage for that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so like talking about the wellness centers, taking advantage of our employees, should take advantage of our wellness center, people go out there, bring everything down, the cost down. And, the wellness centers, for colds and flus, zero, and it's for the whole family. So I just wish that, human resources can go out there and, promote our wellness center more to our employees and encourage them, or find ways to incentivize them, say, hey, this is gonna have this, you use this wellness center that the city's providing for, of course, it's something that everybody pays for, but it's for you guys and for your families, it's something that you should be using and utilizing because we have it. Right now, people are trying to find, if I'm not mistaken, the county is trying to do the same thing we're doing, the city already has, and they're trying to do the same thing. So now, it's for us, our HR department start encouraging, incentivizing, saying, hey, go use our wellness center. It's gonna help you on the long run. So,
on that note, Councilmember Rangel, remember that we also have here through the city, the after-hours clinic, the urgent care clinic with Nuestra Salud, which is also free for the members and their families that are on the plan. It's a zero copay for that
it's just to add more information out there, publicize it more for our employees. you know, encourage them to use it, and that's something that we need to, as a city, or we need to start, you know, educating our employees, saying, yeah, this is the part that we have to use it. The long run, of course, everything's going up, and right now, as you heard right now, our tariffs are going up, that are up, our tolls, you know, trying to see the balance, if we increase, we don't. Everything's going up, utilities, groceries, everything's going up, so using that, you know, that's a great program that we as a city, we have, but I encourage HR to promote it, fund it, find a budget for it, so we can start it, you know, including it to our employees, telling them, hey, we need to use this wellness center because we have it. You know, it's something that, it's gonna help you a lot in your insurance and in your health on the long run.
All the plans that we've discussed here, remember that they all include a 24-hour nurse line, which is a free of cost, whether it's HMO, PPO, and also the MD Live. So you have a doctor that speaks either English or Spanish. It's a remote doctor, right? That's available 24/7 as well. That doctor can and will prescribe medication. Again, it's gonna be for minor stuff like, again, colds, flus, allergies, things of that sort. If you have a heart, you know, issue or a seizure or something, you wanna go to the ER for that. In-network ER, but you do have a 24-hour nurse line and MD line.
But even mental health services are available
Covered.
through MD Live. So for those individuals, or
Behavioral
families that
health.
are looking for behavioral health support, MD Live has that available. And I just want to point something, I hate to move back, but on the out-of-pocket expense, keeping in mind that the high deductible health plan, the out-of-pocket is $3,400 versus the $8,000 on the PPO. So thinking of those families that are dealing with some kind of chronic condition or catastrophic condition, the right option for them is that high deductible health plan because it has that lowest out-of-pocket maximum. Plus, the city gives, at least they did last year, but this year, we're hoping that the
proposing maybe
city is again able to give a little bit of money towards that deductible. It's absolutely the way to go. It's a tremendous benefit that you offer.
And this needs to be expressed during the cafeteria plan, because some employees, they don't know.
Some people get really scared about the prospect of having to pay out of pocket for, like we talked about, the GLP-1. So if they're taking a medication that costs $1,000 a month, they're really scared about having to do that. But 3 months and you're covered at 100% for the rest of the year. It's, again, difficult decisions that you all have to make.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Councilmember Perez.
Well, going back to that point that you made, which was a great one, but in terms of pool impact, theoretically, if your out of pocket is $8,000 right now, and you go to the high deductible, now your out of pocket is $5
Right.
or $6.
It's not
Then-
good for the city, but it's good for the employee.
Okay, but that's what I'm getting at. It's like, we are trying to look out for the employees, but at the same time, y'all are trying to look out for the pool. So if we take all these people that are currently paying more out of pocket and they move into the high deductible plan, well then.
We absorb that risk.
You
because
do
now
absorb
we're
that.
We're gonna be having to pay those, once they reach that amount, 100%.
Okay, so we haven't even factored that. If we price these plans and we push that goal line so far out, and we push everybody into the high deductible plan, well, now we're at a bigger deficit. Instead of being a $5.8 million deficit, or in one scenario, now we're at a $12 million deficit because we didn't factor in that big pool into the high deductible. So, I mean, we're
It's a
trying to make
catch-22
projections.
for sure.
One item I was just reminded of by Mr. Esparza is when someone is on the high deductible health plan, as you know, they're responsible for the first $3,300 or this next year $3,400. The employee tends to shop. Why? Because those first $3,300 are coming out of their pocket. So I'm gonna choose drawing fluid out of somebody's knee. This was an actual case that happened last year, right? Here in Laredo, at that time, there was 14 providers that would do that. And the procedure is you go in, they get a shot, in less than 5 minutes, they've drawn fluid out of your knee. The cheapest one was $78 and the most expensive was $1,200. That's an invasive procedure, right? Which means you gotta pay that cost. Well, with Blue Cross Blue Shield, you can pick up the phone, you can call our office, or you can get on the cost estimator and find out, hey, of these 14, this one's 78, this is 101, this is 150. And again, if it's coming out of my pocket, I'm gonna pay for the 78 or the $100 one versus the $1,200 one. So the consumer-driven health plan, and I see where you're going, Councilmember Perez, you know, but the employee also has some of that onus to say, hey, well, the first 33 is coming out of my pocket, I'm gonna make it last. Keeping in mind that the city also gives you $750 or $500 or whatever. We have employees that have been on that plan for several years that have, I don't know, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 in that health savings account that they can use for qualified medical expenses and saying, if something happens, I've got my $3,400 already covered.
Okay, so can I, Mayor?
Yeah.
So the process that you just described right now of picking up the phone and calling, I mean, do we have literature for our employees so they can also follow that path? And
Yes.
then also, just literature overall on what exactly, because you're saying the high deductible plan is a PPO, which this was, for some reason, my first night understanding that, okay? I always thought it was an HMO plan. So that would be another consideration for the employees. Are there people on our plan right now that are not eligible to move into that?
Yes.
There are some criterias for the high deductible.
Okay, so
There are exclusions.
what is the criteria?
Folks that are over the age of 65 that are still working, and I don't know how many you have, probably not
Not
a
a lot,
whole
but
lot.
we do have employees
but-
that are over that age gap.
The folks that are over age 65 are not eligible for the high deductible health plan, and that's an IRS regulation.
Okay.
They are automatically over age 65. They do have Medicare Part A, so they have that protection for, or support for hospitalization expenses, but they wouldn't be eligible for the high deductible.
Okay, well, I'd still like to see the breakdown of going back to this slide so we can be done with it. Just how many people are hitting that out of max from the plan that they're on, and then if we move into the new deductible, higher deductibles, how would that look? I would like to see that. And also, one more question, the HSA plan, the HSA that we offer through the high deductible, is that offered at all as an add-on to any of our plans, or?
Only on the high deductible health plan, and again, that's an IRS regulation or rule. You cannot have the health savings account on a PPO or an HMO. You can have what they call the FSA, just to confuse you all a little bit more instead of HSA, FSA. The flexible spending account, that's where you can put monies into that account that you can use, but it has that use it or lose it provision. In other words, I'm putting $1,000 in it this year to use for office visits, x-rays, whatever, but if I don't use that $1,000, then I lose it. The health savings account, the HSA, those dollars roll over, which is why I made that comment that we currently have some of your members that have $5,000, $7,000, $8,000 in that account right now.
And another question real quick, the $750, that we have right now, like employee or city contribution, do you have a scenario where it stays at $750? And also, is that per member? If it's a family, is that $750 per member, or how?
So it's $750, provided for the employee, and it can be utilized for themselves. If they have the family plan, it's still just at $750.
Okay.
It's a one-time incentive that we've provided up to the end of this fiscal year. We are proposing a different proposal because there has been an increase of individuals, and so it's affecting the budget constraint that we have for our health savings account contribution. So that's the reason why in the last presentation and even in this one, we're proposing to have a tier program where if it's employee only, it's 500 incentivization for the employee, or if it's an employee plus one or employee, spouse, child, family, 700 incentive. We are wanting to add some inclusions to this, a little bit more buy-in from the employees that, one, they contribute towards their own HSA, a minimum of $10. It's pre-tax money, that's theirs, they get to take it with them. And then, and it rolls over. Thank you, Merari. And then the other thing is having a wait period for our new employees, that they would have to wait a minimum of 180 days from the time that they come on board with us.
Okay.
Because right now, we are providing that incentive to them after 30 days or 60 days, but we run the risk that they leave and that money, we don't collect back.
And also on these charts, I'm not clear on when you go visit a doctor, the out-of-pocket, the copay for the doctor visit, it's not.
The PCP for our PPO and HMO are covered 100%.
Zero.
And what about the high deductible?
High deductible, it's
The
towards.
first 3,300 come out
Correct,
of your
it goes towards the deductible, so it's gonna vary anywhere from like
Okay.
100, 150.
So none of that's changing under any of these plans?
So what we did is we tried to just consolidate the changes, but we do have other slides that has everything that's more detailed.
Well, I'd just like to see going back to the motion was, I believe, was to see can you repeat the motion, Ms.
Sorry. And I did wanna ask clarity for that, if you wanted just the changes or everything but side by side. Yeah, I know.
I mean, basically what you gave us here,
Okay.
just, there's a lot of repeat categories, just to kind of see how it changes plan to plan.
Okay.
So we
I
can.
just wanted clarity for that.
And the amendment, by Councilmember Rangel. Comparison.
Other government bodies,
If I may, Councilmember Rangel, on our last meeting that we had on March 25th, on page 38 of your packet, that information was here. I'm not sure, do I just press this button or how do I get this thing to project?
just speak to the,
It'll come out. Hit it, yeah. Hit the overhead, see if that works.
No, it doesn't work. No, it won't work. I've tried it.
It's in your prior, it's on the March
the
25th packet.
just bring it on the other ones and you have it.
Oh, there we go. So what we did here, or what I should say, staff prepared for you all, is they did a benchmark of the different entities. And, of course, we can't really count the university or the college because they're covered statewide and they've got a huge pool. But they showed you who the carrier was, how many medical plans, was it a PPO plan, DHP, those things. And then they also showed you the funding. So if you notice, under the current plan, the city of Laredo, the rate is $68. I don't know if you can see that or not, it's kind of small. Laredo ISD, it's $124. Webb County, it's $39. And then again, for the university system, it's $30. So the benefits that we have here at the city of Laredo, especially with the 3 months supply for one copay on the medicine, is some of the best benefits that we've had. The low deductibles, the CDHP plan, or the high deductible health plan with a contribution, you have very, very rich benefits here at the city of Laredo. And Councilmember Perez, you had asked about the information. We always recommend, or we always discuss this on our monthly meetings and when we have our trainings, but on the back of your insurance cards, if you go into your purse or your wallet right now, you're gonna see the number on the back for the MD Live, for the Nurse Line, for the 800 number to do the comparison and things of that sort. And then, of course, we're always available as a resource as
And we
well.
also have the information available on our website, we have information available through flyers, so we do disseminate it.
And
There's information everywhere.
Are these companies still like through phone number or Zoom, or do they provide apps already since everybody works through apps?
They have a great app. They have a
Great to
great
hear
app that has everything from the calculator to the provider lookup, ID
Well, we
card.
need to have our city employees download that app.
And so we do monthly meetings, for the city employees, and it'd be wonderful if y'all joined us or attended one. But one of the things that we always talk about is the app, because that's where you have the resources at your fingertips. Of course, the younger employees, it's a natural transition for them. They can do all sorts of things with them, and then there's me that.
And please survey how many employees have the app. Can you run a survey on that, please?
What we like about the app is it has your personal information. So you'll see there, hey, for me, I've paid $832 of my deductible and $1,900 of my out-of-pocket. It'll show me the claims, which pharmacy, which provider. And people have used it also because of the identity issues, like, hey, wait a second, I didn't visit a provider in Phoenix or in San Antonio, I got this on my app. Every time a claim is filed, it'll come up, right? And we've had a few of those cases as well.
Great.
So it's
Mayor Pro
available.
Yes.
So going back to the, if we have a lot of claims that are high deductible or catastrophic claims, are we still carrying insurance for catastrophic?
It's the stop
illnesses?
loss.
The stop loss, yes.
Stop loss of,
Yes.
300,000.
So that doesn't change, we'll carry that still?
Right.
Correct.
So even if we had an influx to the high deductible plan and there was a spike in unfortunate
Right.
occurrences, that we would still be covered?
So the city as an entity is protected, only pays the first three, pays the
Right.
first $300,000 of any large claim, and then the stop loss carrier picks up the difference. And then in addition to that, there is aggregate stop loss, where if your claims are 125% of the projection, then Blue Cross Blue Shield picks up the rest of it. So the city is protected if, God forbid, we had, another pandemic or anything like that. One thing to note on this chart that Blas pulled up, you can see the city, these are last year's rates, but the city's contribution to the medical plan was $865, and then the employees' portion, this 507 is the average family cost. Laredo ISD's contribution of 602, and the employee cost of 124. Webb County's contribution of $1,475 per employee. So that's how they're able to have such a low employee contribution. Pardon me? No, this is,
How much the employer pays.
that's what the
towards plan.
employer contributes. The average is on the family based on the number of plans that they have.
Yeah, but
So-
averages are not entirely accurate.
No, they're not, but I think what's important for you guys to see
They're paying
is
more than the university.
they're paying almost $1,500 a month per employee towards the cost of insurance. So it just kind of gives you a
They have less
perspective.
employees and they're getting part of our sales tax.
Mayor Pro Tem, I have one more question.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. The deadlines that we were presented last meeting,
Still hold.
I understood the deadline was yesterday.
It was.
Okay, so, you've said that you can wait till June 15th. Is it still possible to get it on the agenda by June 15th? And does that create problems if we're putting off this decision once again? I mean, we've been discussing it. I don't pretend that this is not dense and difficult. But I just would like to know what pushing this deadline does to.
We'll be able to work with it, Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
as long as we can get a decision by the next time we meet.
Okay,
We're all good,
And
we'll just get
and
it
it'll be
done.
on the agenda?
Oh, sorry,
What are the repercussions? That's what she was asking.
Yes.
yeah, what are the repercussions?
So the system, they're building the system with placeholders for these decisions that need to be made. And the most important piece is the contribution, is what is it gonna cost, next
Right.
year? Open enrollment starts on,
The second to last week of July.
yeah, so we
July
have to
20th.
have that information loaded into the system no later than July the 1st. The problem is that the company that the city uses, the Benefits Hub, they don't service only the city of Laredo. So we've got to get our data in line to get processed. And that's why they have that June 1st deadline, so that they don't have everybody give them their information on July 15th and we need it on July 20th, because it's just not physically possible. But the placeholders are there and we can make it happen, but we are pushing right up against the deadline. But Blue Cross also has deadlines for the building part of the system, of the changes, of the new paperwork, of everything that has to happen, and ID cards that have to be generated, et cetera. So their deadline is what? A minimum of 45 days. So That,
45 days back from September 1st.
October 1st.
I'm sorry, October 1st, because what we need to make sure is, God forbid, October 1st, somebody's baby's in, cancer ward, or somebody has something horrible. They're in the system, they have their coverage, benefits can be verified, and we don't want to be in that situation, where.
and we also don't want to push to August 15th before we're making the decision, because then I promise you something will go wrong.
So is your recommendation that the absolute deadline for us is this next council meeting?
I would say yes.
And management, because of the agendas, are we able to make that decision by June 15th?
Yes. Yeah, we'll be able to put it, it'll be on the agenda and also, we got her done.
But keep it in open mind, we can always make a special meeting also, in June. So
Well,
after that.
yeah, just can we call for the question?
Yes, so the motion is to, bring back item number 3 with the spreadsheet and with the amendment.
No, the spreadsheet is, we're gonna get it this week, right? Hopefully?
Yes,
Okay.
How long will it take you all to email it out?
we will work on it before Friday, so today's
By
Tuesday,
Friday?
probably by Thursdays, no later than Friday.
Okay.
There's a motion
And there was a second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion carries.
Thank you, thank you all so
Second to
much.
adjourn. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion adjourned. Meeting adjourned.